nose.
That was so great.
My new favorite is not knowing what the quote is going to be and having someone just completely keep it and then just unleash it. Oh, that was
so
great.
good.
What's up, Force family, fans, Chad, chat, whatever we call
Chad,
people.
yeah.
What's up? Thanks for joining in on the Star Wars Guys podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening in every other platform. Is there any other visual platform? There's YouTube just kind of the thing.
Yeah,
YouTube's like, yeah, we got that. Thanks for tuning in. We are your host, as always. This is Mike. By this, I mean me. I am Mike. This is Nate, and you know him well. Uncle. Uncle.
Uncle.
You look different, Uncle. Uncle, what was it like watching? What was it like watching Star Wars in 1977 as a 10-year-old?
Vividly, I remember this.
Vividly, you remember this. You
Yes.
remember this vividly.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Yeah. All right, jigs up. Uncle's not here.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
He's
who,
here in
Oh, he's here. His Force Ghost. He's not dead. Sorry. When I went Force Ghost, people get scared.
That's
there.
true.
He willingly passed away. No, that's not it either. He's out of town. There's no Star Wars version of saying
That's
that.
it. He's
across
out of
the
town.
galaxy doing some.
He's out of town.
Takadana. Thank you for joining in. But our guest today, our guest host, you've heard us mention, and Joe's been on the podcast
He's been on
one
the podcast.
time.
It's been a little while, but he's been on once
minute.
before. So
That's
this is
our
our
little,
second showing.
A little four-host podcast we had.
Yeah.
That was one. That was one of a kind. That was
You've
fun.
seen him in chat.
See him in chat. He usually comes up with a lot of the great questions because
Yeah.
we are unprepared.
That's right.
And yeah. So
Yeah.
Joe, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Oh, I mean, it's one thing, having you in chat. It's a whole nother thing having you here in person. So it's good to have you back. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Chad in person here.
Chad in person. Chad is
I
in
like
person.
that. What
Chat
if
in person.
the new thing we do is each week we just keep adding someone from the chat.
Bro,
Soon at the end, this is like, hey,
just
we are the Star Wars guys. Yeah. It's just an army
Just
of
an arena.
podcasters. This is great.
It's like
Arena.
college game day. There's just
Yeah, it's exactly.
That's Chad.
We got
I love it.
signs up and everything. That'd be great.
I
Go
love
ahead, Mike. Hit him with what we got for the podcast.
All right,
'Cause I
so
don't
we-
know what we're talking about.
it. Yeah, and I barely know what I'm talking about most of the time. But tonight, I'm laser focused. we have a great podcast episode. I think. Who knows? It hasn't started. I mean, it's just starting. I hope it'll be great. But the idea is great. Where it goes, we'll find out. But the idea for our podcast tonight is that when I was thinking of this podcast topic, I was thinking about everything circling around the Kenobi series that is coming out, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
There's a Kenobi series coming out?
You haven't heard this?
No.
It's on Disney Plus. I couldn't remember what it was called.
Oh.
No. Yeah, so the Kenobi series that's coming out has been rumored for years that we were first. There was, I mean, now it's even been confirmed by Kathleen Kennedy and Ewan McGregor that there was an initial movie script and that they were moments away from announcing it at a Star Wars celebration. There were certain directors and writers, and a lot of that stuff has become public now. But all that to say, it then transformed from a film to with the launch of Disney Plus, opening the path, the gateway to a lot of new types of content, mainly series and Obi-Wan. What am I saying? I am saying that this
It's a show.
episode we are talking about the fact that we have movies, we have the films, we have live action television, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett,
We've
other
got
shows on the
animated
way.
shows.
Animated shows. We talk about them because we love them so much
Yeah.
on here. We've also got books. We've got comics. There's even audiobooks. Dooku Jedi Lost fans out there. That's the only one I know of.
Oh,
Sorry.
great audiobook since you're
It is
talking
great.
about it. Ahsoka, voiced by Ashley Eckstein.
Oh,
Ahsoka
you do
herself.
this.
So go read the Ahsoka book with the audiobook. It's
True,
amazing.
true.
Yep.
The Dooku
Great.
one I'm talking about is audio only.
Oh, okay.
But then
okay.
actually, I say that, but then within the last year, that was from like 3 years ago, within the last year they came out with a book version of it.
Oh.
So forget what I
Liar.
But how hard was it to come up with that script
but-
for that book?
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about the different Star Wars across all these different mediums, so across all these different platforms, and we'll have some fun discussions of kind of how do we view the different platforms? Is there some significance you give to a certain to
Do you
this
elevate
versus this?
some over another?
Yeah, we'll have a bunch of discussions, and then I figured we could kind of close with some fun little exercise of if you could take a show or a film or a comic or a novel and you switch it to a different medium, what would you
Ooh.
choose? And we can do a number of them, but like
Ooh.
oh, this movie would have been great stretched out into a series, or this series
I've got a ton that are coming
as a film, or this animated show as a live action. Those types of things. This
Or games.
novel. There's a lot of different stuff. Games. We can do anything here. So that is the basis of the podcast, and then now we'll probably talk for 2 hours about The Last Jedi. Nate?
That's usually how it goes. No,
So, do you want to start us off in a particular
yeah. Let's
direction?
start with is there? I like what you were touching on for.
Well, that's why I said it.
Well,
I thought people would like it.
I'll allow it. Is there a certain medium that is films valued higher than others now with Disney Plus, or do we look at these series as equivalent? I don't know. I mean,
And you can go like personally, and then also maybe
Yeah.
because it could be multiple answers of
Yeah.
like they might view box office as
Right.
one thing, but do you personally long for a particular, or do you ever catch yourself like reading something? Like I've read books sometimes and like this would be great in a live action. I wonder what that would look
yeah.
like or something. But
Yeah.
go. It was your time. I've spoken. enough.
yeah, you took my time. I'm just kidding. No, I was just saying, like, for instance, we've got Mando and Boba Fett live action series. Is that better? Because, like, we've talked about this when we did our episode to episode reviews, how much we enjoy that it was a series and not a film, because you get way more time, way more development for the characters. You can actually see some progression. Nothing feels rushed, for example. You go to the films, and I think a lot of people are in agreement that as much as we loved episode 3, it was a great one, Revenge of the Sith, there were some things that were rushed, which is why Lucas himself and Filoni went and created Clone Wars, because there was more story there that he felt they couldn't fit into the movie.
Yeah, he always wished that there was more story stuff in his head that he's like,
exactly.
I can't do 10-hour movies. Here. I have
Exactly.
to-
So if something like that scale, telling a story like that, were to be in a live action series now with Disney Plus, would we hold it to the same standard, or are we always going to look at film as there's film, TV is underneath, Disney Plus, TV, all that stuff is underneath, the live action series, animated series.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of equivalent among these, or I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think Disney Plus obviously just changed the game drastically with just shows in general, whether it's animated or live action or whatever it's going to be. I guess those are like 2 options.
Yeah.
But for sure, I mean, it would always, be, the movie's it's a big blockbuster.
Right.
Episode 3's out. Oh, episode 7. Oh, everyone's losing their mind. And then, Mando comes out and Boba, and it's like, and then obviously, I mean, they're shooting on like the volume, which
Yeah,
I mean
the
gives
quality
it kind of gives it
fantastic.
that cinematic. I still think there's a difference between like a true like cinematic
Yeah,
For
movie
sure.
experience. Just
Yeah.
the way you make the movie has that feel.
I'm with you on this, and I'm glad you brought that up.
But-
And I'll give it right back to you. There's still, it's come such a long way, and it's still amazing.
Yeah.
There is a small kind of confined feeling versus
Being
you
in a
turn
theater?
on of the volume versus being
yeah,
watching the full budget $200 million
Yeah.
Yeah.
film
yeah.
where you're like, this looks like they're in Tunisia filming this because they were.
Are.
Like,
Right,
that's-
right.
That's
Yeah.
it's just a different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was pretty much my point. It's just movies, typically, especially obviously for Star
Yeah.
Wars, will always have that cinematic feel. It's huge. It's galaxy, and even though the show, it's like Mandalorian, he's in this Razor Crest. Rip is going around in
Rip.
Rest in peace. In memoriam.
In memoriam.
Razor Crest.
Uh,
Razor Crest.
Going planet to planet, and it still feels like very close. But there's something, I don't know if it's intangible or if it's just
yeah,
placebo. It's like mental. It's like this is the movie.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
I-
that's how physical or how mental,
Yeah.
like what that crossover is. But I mean, they're bridging that gap from like
I think it's
TV
just
show to
yeah, and we've touched on some of this stuff throughout past episodes, and I think it's funny because when you break it down, I think there are certain categories where the TV is better.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying, just the cinematography,
yeah.
there's still a little bit of a gap there. But with Disney Plus, the volume and stuff, they've closed the gap, because it used to be. I mean, we poke fun at the John Boyega quote where he's like, "You're not going to Disney Plus me, mate." So I mean, we poke fun at it, but that was the standard before Disney Plus came out and these other things came out. That was what Hollywood thought. I mean, these actors were TV or they were movie actors. And there were TV actors. If you were in big films, you probably weren't going to go down and do TV. That's just how it used to be. Now
Oscar Isaac said, Disney Plus me.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac said, "Give me my own show.
Give me it.
Moon
Give
Knight
me it all."
Come on.
I mean, all of them. The Rock, arguably, the most profitable actor right now, is doing movies on Netflix and things. So I mean, it's interesting having these different mediums and seeing the quality that are going into these. But when it comes to storytelling, I almost like even throw the animated stuff in there, the storytelling that you can get from just having these things. I don't want to use the term like drawn out because that sounds like it went on too long. But like
they can take their time.
They can exactly. They can take their time telling the story, developing characters, and I love that. There's also like you want to talk about just visually, but then the actual physical experience is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole different feeling when you go watch Spider-Man No Way Home and you're in a theater opening night and everyone's, vocally freaking out around you.
Right.
Or, a Star Wars movie, Force Awakens comes back after all these years of Star Wars being away. Then it's just vocally in a theater with people around you that are enjoying this movie that you guys, have in common.
Yeah.
But then whole different experience when you're watching Disney Plus and I'm waking up at 2 a.m. to watch in the middle of the night to watch it by myself, but I'm still like super excited to wake up and watch it because I'm like, we talked about it. It's like, oh, I want to go immediately on Twitter and see what everyone's raving about, like how crazy the episode was and stuff. So it's different. But
we actually changed our viewing habits mid Boba Fett season. We had to have a big group text between me, Nate, and Uncle. And we said, guys, we can't wait for each other anymore. We are waking up. When you wake up, you watch it. It's the Wild West out here. Good luck to you.
I honestly felt bad because I think I started it because one night I just woke up at 2 and I was like, I'm just going to watch it so that I can tweet and have some tweets that are going out at the same time and just see what everyone was talking about. And I did it and I was like, I have to do this every week.
What have I done?
I was like, I have to do this. I will do whatever.
And I leaned over to Nate and said, you're fulfilling your destiny.
But it is, though. It's a different experience.
Yeah.
It's just a different experience, and I love them both.
Yeah.
But the storytelling and being able to elaborate on some of those characters is I think Rebels and Clone Wars are just great examples of that.
Yeah.
Even though, and it's funny because I've seen these on TikToks, I've seen YouTube videos of people saying, animated series are just as valid as live action stuff. And to be honest, it is. It's honestly just a matter of preference. Some people will look at animated and say, I'll never watch it. And that's fine if you're not into it. But when you actually, the storytelling and you enjoy the storytelling for what it is, some of the storytelling is amazing. Oh. So when you take in the storytelling, you're like, wow, this is just as good. Some of my favorite Star Wars.
Not better.
The reason we have Ahsoka is because of the shows. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's, there's so many ways to go with this discussion. The Disney Plus, Mandalorian being as successful as it did, changed everything for Disney Plus. Like, they launched it, the unknown show, unknown character. He's kind of like Boba Fett. That's the only thing we knew
Banked
about
all
him.
Disney Plus on it because they're big.
Bet everything on it. They did it before. Marvel was at the top of its game, and they were like, we're going to go with the Star Wars show first.
Yeah.
They did it. It was a home run. Baby Yoda captured the hearts of everyone. And the quality, though, immediately, I think something that they did that really helped. They got big names on it right away. Big names in Star Wars, big names out of Star Wars.
And
Jon Favreau's a superstar.
Exactly.
He's a superstar at Disney. He obviously Lion King, Jungle Book, Iron Man. He's done a bunch of things, and also actor, and has done tons of movies. But they got him. And they're like, okay, we got a big name, and then we got Filoni, who is huge in Star Wars circles, but the average person outside of diehard Star Wars fans didn't really know who he was that much. Like, okay, well, they're co-doing this. We're doing our first live action. I remember sitting down and was like, I'm watching Star Wars on television. I didn't know if I'd ever get this. And they took big swings, and it paid off. The new technology, that's kind of in the spirit of George Lucas, too. George was always trying to push tech and did a new thing. And the volume changed so much.
Favreau's doing the same thing.
That's what Favreau did. It was with the volume. And it changed everything because they also now have multiple projects going on at the same time. What series open up that you can't do versus movies?
So much more content.
Well, you can't do versus movies is you can't promote and have, and they've even done a good job of trying to not have things step on each other's toes because Disney owns like everything now. So they're like, well, we have to push back Obi-Wan because we have Miss Marvel who's coming.
And Disney, if you're watching,
and we're doing this, and
Star Wars Guys podcast has not been bought out by you yet, so
our pockets are still empty but ready to be filled. No, want to be shills. That's what we're saying.
Deep comic books are we speaking here? I mean,
What we're saying is our allegiance is for hire.
For hire.
For hire. We are sellouts, not yet. But what I'm getting at here is, I think it depends on overall. I think so the series. I think that certain stories. This is why I want to do the podcast. This podcast episode is. I think certain stories lend itself to a series being better. Meaning I am very excited if I could choose right now. And it's not would I rather have Star Wars film versus Star Wars series, but would I rather have Obi-Wan film versus Obi-Wan series? I'd rather have Obi-Wan series. I'd rather have
exactly.
I'd rather have 6 hours of Obi-Wan than I would 2 hours.
2 hour film, yeah.
And because I want them to take their time I would love to have, and it's funny because I'm not sure exactly. I mean, they gave us the one kind of teaser trailer, but I would love to have some introspective Obi-Wan, and I think we'll get it, of him sitting there dealing with the turmoil and the heartbreak. And if you do that in a film, they're like, okay, we spent 5 minutes on that. Action. Let's go. We need someone to have a lightsaber and come fight him now. Where there's going to be plenty of that in the show, but they can take their time with it. One of my favorite television shows, if not my favorite TV show of all time, is Breaking Bad. You can't do Breaking Bad in a movie. It just doesn't. You can't adequately have someone.
You can't get the character of Walter White from the beginning to the end in a movie.
No, the way it would come off is just that you would just think, oh, I guess the person in the beginning of what I saw was just like he was. And again, that is part of Breaking Bad, is that it was always what he was capable of, and then he went there.
Yeah.
But the slow step by step, one sin, one breaking the law, it spirals into something where you're now unrecognizable. We do that over
for
2 hour
Anakin,
movie.
that's Clone Wars.
Anakin, that's Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Anakin, that's even for Anakin, that's a 3 movie arc to even finally get there, because they first have to make you like him as a child.
Yeah.
And then he's a bit of a brat in the second one. And you're like, oh, stuff's not going well. And then finally, the turn happens. But if you're doing an Obi-Wan show, and we've waited for it for so long, if you did it as a film, I think that you would love it. It'd be awesome. But if I can do 6 hours, I'd much rather do 6 hours. But there are certain shows that, in Clone Wars is a great one, that lend itself to the long form storytelling. And I wonder, like one of the movies that I think, and I'm looking at the poster right now, that I loved the movie that I think would be great as a series would be Solo.
Oh yeah.
Because I think there's so many characters
Kira,
in Solo.
Dive into Crimson
Give me more
Dawn.
Kira. Give me more Val. Give me like these characters that were there. They were in the background. That
Another Favreau. Give me Rio.
Give me Rio. Yeah, exactly.
It's Favreau.
What do you say? A Wookiee's arms? How he's talking about? Hilarious. So there's certain things I think just lend itself to that long form storytelling, where maybe a film that's drawn out, like taking Rise of Skywalker and drawing that out into a long thing. I mean, you could, like, there's still there.
There's ways to still do it. Yeah.
There's a lot still there. You just have to add a whole lot, and maybe some of that would be good. You can explain some more of the stuff, or maybe if you're someone who really wanted a longer explanation of how Palpatine returned, that could be an episode. That can be, you can have things like that.
And that's a good point.
You can have time for Rose to get more screen time.
That's true.
Stuff like that.
But that's a good point you're making, though, is like some of those things now with Disney Plus, is they have in the live action shows some freedom to have those movies and feel like we can still fill some of those gaps.
So that's
like there's not. They still might come back and explain. They explained it, but like have a whole thing that actually shows Palpatine in the shadows. Like they could still do that if they wanted through a different medium, whether it's Disney Plus or a book or comics. Yeah, so they can still do that with having the big feature films.
The film can fill in, and what Star Wars has always done, the Star Wars in the prequels go a little bit further into the detail stuff, and that was initially one of the criticisms when the prequels came out, was that like we were like, oh, we never really wondered who created C-3PO, but George, if you want to tell us it's Anakin,
right,
and it's all tied to Anakin, sure, it sounds good. It wasn't a big mystery coming out of the initial. It was like, yeah, we know who Luke is, but who made C-3PO?
All he did was make me wonder who made R2.
Yes.
And now I need that answer. No.
Droid
That's
we'll get it.
We'll get it.
It's all the long game. It's all about
droid tales.
So what I'm getting at there, though, is it's always been kind of this like just giving you tip of the iceberg storytelling of we're giving you
Yeah.
enough things that it's always, oh, who's that weird creature in the background? Well, great. Here's a novel. You can discover who that is. We don't have time in the movies to focus on every single character, but what Disney Plus is doing great, and they're doing with Star Wars, they're doing with Marvel and other things. I love the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff into Clint's personal life, his marriage, all of these things. They can't do that in an Avengers movie where they're like,
Right.
so yes, Thanos has the time stone, and Clint is also late for dinner. So it's Christmas time, and there's Captain America musical.
Will he make it back for presents?
Sure, that'll be great, Bobby. Yes. I don't know. This is where the podcast goes off the rails. Always. Spooky lightning. Yeah, so you can introduce stuff and then fill in the gaps with the series. Joe, I got a question for you. Do you view when you're watching, do you still feel like there's a hierarchy of in your personal mind? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
But do you feel like there's, because I still feel like that sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
It comes
Sure.
level of importance of like,
Sure.
you've got feature film. You've got the live action film in the theater. You've got live action Disney Plus. You've got animated. You've got novels,
Games.
comics. In as much as I love comics, I have trouble keeping up with the comics. I'm not even close to keeping up with the comics. But comics have a reputation, and that's kind of part of it, is that they can kind of take big swings and they can do wacky things. And you're like, oh, yeah, this Poe Dameron comic is very bizarre, and I don't know what's going on here. And there's a Spider-Man, like a man spider crawling around, and they're like, oh, it's a comic. You can do stuff like that. Where if that's in a film, there'll be a lot of Reddit pages that are like, what the heck was that?
R/Y though.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Ryan Johnson's fault.
So do you feel like there's or is it flipped, or maybe your order is different, or what do you feel? How do you feel?
No wrong answers.
Joe, tell us how you feel.
Just recline back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably, at least for me, if someone's like, hey, I've never seen Star Wars, like let's get into it. How do we navigate that? I feel like you still, I would still start with the movie. Like, this is the overview of everything.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, did you really dig that? Yeah. It's like, okay, let's go into
Let's dig deeper.
Yeah, maybe like a Kenobi.
Have you
in the
seen
future.
Baby Yoda?
Have you seen Baby Yoda?
You know that thing you see at every Target? Do you know where that comes
Have
from?
you gotten enough of it yet?
Yeah.
Because if not, here's the backstory.
If not, here's the backstory to my shirt.
Wait a second.
What's up?
It is the backstory to
It's
my
the
shirt.
back-
You can't
Your
find a
shirt.
room that doesn't have a Baby Yoda. That's what I challenge Chad. Chad, continue, Joe.
Find the backstory. This is fine. Sorry.
No. I love that. The one time we have dead air, I'm just like, Joe? It's like, keep talking. We don't do it. No. As if there's any rules on this podcast.
Yeah.
No rules. But I think, movies, live action, and then if the person's still like wanting to go,
Yeah.
then maybe like an animated, like a Clone Wars or like a Rebels. But I guess that again, it varies so much per person. It's like maybe someone's super loves cartoons. They're like, I love animated. Like, let's just do Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
I got one for you.
Ooh,
You've read some of the books.
I have.
You and Sarah.
Yes, we have.
Uh-huh.
Did you read the books before diving into the animated stuff? Or did the animated stuff come before?
We did animated before the books.
Animated before
Yes.
the books. Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious because there's definitely, there's book people that love reading all the books. They might dive into those first.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just
I
didn't
think
know
it
because I knew
depends.
you had read them, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if you had read them first or not. I was just curious.
I think it depends on what book it is.
Yeah.
If you read like one of the new High Republic ones, you can know nothing about Star
That's
Wars.
true.
Yeah.
And just be like,
That's true.
here's some great stories
Oh, yeah.
of Jedi
Yeah.
and, High Republic and
Light of the
Star
Jedi is
Wars.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great
Light
book.
of the Jedi is
So
so
good.
good.
Such a good book. And then if they love books, good. If they love, audiobooks, go for Dooku.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, shout out to it's Kevin Scott's Dooku Jedi Lost, which I both have the audiobook it's not an audiobook, it's an audio It's not an audio book. I guess consider an audio book, but it was just audio only when it came out. There's an audio rendition of it. So it's different than just like Ashley Eckstein reading the Ahsoka book that had already come out.
Sure.
But then I did buy the actual book also.
Yeah.
And I've listened and read neither. Just because I have 30 Star I have 30 Star Wars. Sorry about that. I almost turned into Smeagol, Gollum. I have 30 Star Wars books probably on my bookshelf that I still haven't gotten to yet.
That's a lot.
I have a lot.
That's a lot.
And I know
That's
that
more
because
books
I'm
than
moving
I've
to a
probably
new
ever
house
read.
right now, and I just had to pack them all up yesterday and move them.
30 individual
And there are
boxes.
So many of them.
K-Town in the chat said earlier, that's Dave Filoni for you. Great storyteller. That's true.
That's true.
Awesome
Storytelling.
storyteller.
Which
that's
again,
that's
goes
George too.
testament to
George
George
the
too.
big storyteller.
Testament to the shows, being able to write all that out in a show.
Is anyone in Chad,
Uh-huh.
a big cartoon person, started with Clone Wars and then just went to
Ooh.
like the Ahsoka book and like knows nothing else about Star Wars
Love
and
it.
just the Ahsoka story.
Ahsoka
Where is this
is-
And then just
unicorn?
super
Because
hyped
there's
for-
no shot
for
this
the
person
live action.
exists.
when Ahsoka or when Clone Wars Ahsoka book Rebels to get the rest
Rebels,
of the Ahsoka
yup.
arc and is just like
And
doesn't
just
know
went
any more
straight Mando.
And then the one episode
Only
of Mando.
episodes of Mando. with
Mando and
Ahsoka in
Boba,
it.
just the Ahsoka episodes, and now it's
Yep.
just silently waiting
Just
there
waiting
for
for the
Ahsoka
Ahsoka.
next year to come out. And just
Rocky.
like, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
awesome.
this person does
Ahsoka,
not know.
I
Yeah.
love it.
But
Nate, what
it's-
about? Yeah,
What?
Yep.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, any similar feelings to Joe or different there as far as do you
Yeah,
do you still feel like because the reason I'm saying this is I've had
Yeah.
personally great novels that I love, and your initial thought you can't help yourself sometimes is
It's
to
like,
be
oh,
like,
this
dang,
is
I
a
would love to see
movie.
this in live action.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's sometimes it could be just that, oh, I would love to just visually see what's
Yeah.
I'd love
I mean,
to
I think
see-
of that about every good book.
I would love to see the Darth Plagueis novel, which is great. That's now Legends. Lost Stars. Lost
Oh my
Stars is
gosh,
fantastic.
dude.
it's so good.
Lost
Seeing
Stars.
that
movie or
is
show
so-
though.
See, that's the thing.
Because
there,
that's
is
a long.
that
book.
would be
'cause
That
that's
would be a
three.
great movie. Wouldn't all
no
come close to
no.
the storytelling that's in the book.
I think
So
that
it's
would be
like-
a fantastic
that'd be a
show.
series.
In
Have
fact,
to
it
be a
kind of
show.
gives me a little bit of like Andor vibes.
Yeah.
Because you're not following like a Jedi. You're following like it gives me kind of that feel of like, how does someone look at the view of Star Wars, the world that they're living in, and
Yeah.
what do they think of the Empire? How did I get to where I am? Why am I going to the Imperial Academy?
Well, and
Then from their point of view, it looks good.
Yeah,
I was gonna
'Cause
say
they
what
helped
else-
our planet
hyped.
thrive, like they do.
Yeah.
That book
because
is
what
so
that
good.
book also does great is it's so much of it. That and the Aftermath novels, which kind of came out around the same time, by Charles Soule, who actually did. No, that was Chuck Wendig, different author. But they do a great job of Palpatine's manipulation throughout that whole thing of like,
Yep.
yes, we think the Empire is great because we've only seen what Palpatine wants you to know about the Empire.
Right.
Like we bring food to your planet. We
We
pick
provide
you up.
guards and
We get you on your
help
feet
your-
and like
Yeah.
what's not to love? Oh yeah, we are building a thing called the Death
Death
Star.
Star.
But you guys don't know that's a space station.
Yeah.
That's great.
yeah.
I think even Palpatine visually in Lost Stars, wasn't it like frying himself Episode 3 like holograms of
Yeah,
himself?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's
They
still
talk
beautiful
about
in his
that.
robes and it's
Yeah.
like,
And I love that they get at some of
Nah.
that with
Rebels.
with like the World Between Worlds.
Yeah,
And he's like
Ezra.
and then it starts cutting
Flashes.
into-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
yeah, they
that.
did talk about that. They used to have on the HoloNet. It would be all these
Yeah.
hollow things of him pre-frying himself.
Pre-fried.
That's the best.
Pre-frying himself.
Pre-fried. Deep fried Palpatine.
Deep fried.
Deep fried
You heard
Palpatine.
deep fried memes. Get ready for deep fried
Deep
Palpatine.
fried Palpatine.
Oh,
Deep
man.
fried Sheev.
K-Town
That's
said
great.
in the chat again, I would love to see the fight in Rebels of Vader and Ahsoka in live action. Yeah, that would be sick.
It's
That's one of the best fights in all of Star Wars.
there is.
Especially when you see the full circle.
I'm not saying we're going
At
to
the
get.
end.
I'm not saying we're going to get that. I don't know if they will actually.
I don't think we'll get that.
I don't think
but it
so
would be
either.
cool.
But Hayden is supposed to be in the Ahsoka series, so there's supposed
Right.
to be some sort of either probably Force Ghost interaction there or flashback to Clone Wars.
Oh, if we had
Oh,
flashbacks.
flashback, little live action.
Which will be interesting. Like, is Rosario Dawson gonna be like, Sky Guy, or are they gonna get like a
please
younger?
don't.
We've
Are they
talked
gonna
about
get
this.
like a?
No.
But meaning
We've
like, are they
talked
gonna
about
have
this.
her as like an adult 40-year-old?
But there are excuses that
or-
she's not human, so
True,
she'll
but
just be
but
as
she
old as.
but she ages throughout Clone Wars. She goes from a teen to like Rebels. She's a lot
Yeah.
older.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
post Mando, she's like 100. She just ages differently.
Yeah.
But not
She's
100,
like
but she's
100.
like, I mean, she's what like, I mean, post Mando, she's probably like, shoot, 50s.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, 60s. No,
Yeah.
she's the same age as she's a little younger than Anakin.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I don't know. But Lost Stars, great one. There's a number
I would
of
love
novels.
to see if you guys haven't dove into the High Republic yet.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Which honestly, this
Fallen
it's
Star.
interesting that we're talking about this because I think they will do a High Republic film at some point.
Yeah,
Whether
too.
and with having books out now, this is an opportunity that Star Wars has never had before.
Yeah.
They've never done like a Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, take a book and make it into a movie.
Mhm.
Where they have the entire script basically from the book and then just go take that. They haven't done that. They've just, wrote the stories and made the movies. So it'll be interesting to see if they ever do that, or like if they take the High Republic books, that trilogy, and make it into a make it into a film series.
film series or even
I don't know.
television series set in the High Republic where you get all these Jedi. and,
Right.
like-
Well, I think we'll get High Republic film or movies, but I mean taking like the exact book, like
Yeah,
take
you're
this
saying
book,
adapt
take
it.
Light of the Jedi and make it into a movie, which they've never done before. So I don't know if they'll do that, if they'll just continue to tell separate stories, but maybe
Yeah.
overlap, like they've done now, is like take stuff from these things and put references into live action. I don't know, but
yeah, that's so. If you guys, real quick, while we're just maybe before we move on to next piece of this, if you were to take a novel, let's just say we each go around, you can't pick the same novel. If you were to pick, because I know we've each read a number
can't
of
pick the
books.
same.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
your one and only. Like if it doesn't mean like, oh, I would have said Lost Stars, but okay, pick a different one. A novel that you think would be good as a film, or just that you want to see
Yeah.
you want to see either live action or
Yeah.
Lost Stars animated. Like you can
Ooh.
see anything animated
True.
like that too. I mean, when you see what they did with Rebels and what they did with Clone Wars, season 7 of Clone Wars, like the production
Oh
value
my
is
gosh.
ridiculous.
They
Bad
actually
Batch.
did
Yeah,
motion
Bad
cap.
Batch.
Bad
Bad
Batch
Batch
is
is
great.
unreal. The production was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That's actually one of
How
the things
many
people
times
forget
were
about.
we
I can't
watching
wait for
Bad Batch and looking at each other going, how is this animated?
Oh yeah,
This
it's just
is-
like
how is this? This looks. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm watching a movie. It was so
Yeah.
good.
so
uh,
a novel that any
no,
suggestions
we'll
for
start
some
with Joe.
novels?
I read the
Joe
fewest
think?
books, so
Yeah.
Well, then it shouldn't be a big hard choice.
I mean-
Maybe Lie of the Jedi or what do you or Lost Stars is just so
Dude,
hard.
Lost Stars
I mean,
is so
Lost Stars was so good.
Lost
I loved
Stars
Light
so
of the
good.
Jedi, but
Yeah.
like
Lost
I remember
Stars
reading
is-
Lost Stars and being like nah, and like not putting the book down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Light of the Jedi, I was like, it's time for dinner.
When-
A lot of Jedi.
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
It was a harder read, I think, too. It's a little
Lost
harder read, just
Stars-
not
Yeah.
in terms of like actual words used, but like in terms
Well,
of just
actually-
because it jumps
It does
from,
jump.
like a lot. So you got to be,
I mean,
keeping up.
also in terms of actual words used.
Well, that
It
too,
is-
but-
Lost Stars is
It's an adult book.
It's a YA novel,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
sometimes I think gets a bad rap of like, oh, it's like for kids. That
Oh,
book,
Lost Stars is
Lost
yeah,
Stars.
You're right.
Lost
Is
Stars
young adult.
is
Yeah, yeah.
just a little bit lower reader
Right.
level, but again, I
Right.
think when I read that, not comparing the two, but it reads like Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Meaning like adults absolutely can
For
read it,
sure.
love it. I read it as a
It's one of my
30-year-old, as a
favorite books
29-year-old.
outside of Star.
Love it.
It's
Yeah.
just in general one of my favorite
But it's
books I've
also
ever read.
it's also intentionally told in a way that's not for young children, but it's like teens for sure can read
Yeah.
this and not just be completely lost. Where
Yeah.
right.
there are some books that are a little more dense. Every single book,
Gosh, you're okay.
every single book that
You're just
that
reminding me of
Timothy
different-
Zahn, every single Timothy Zahn book, all of his Thrawn books, and I've got like
Tough
6 of
reads.
them. They're tough reads because he leans very heavy, and I like his books. He leans very heavy into the sci-fi tech stuff, and it'll be like a 20-page thing about how Thrawn's tactical move for for why this and then this
I love
angular,
it.
and he's using all these different. We'll use this flank maneuver of this, and I'm like, I'm 30 and I can hardly understand this.
Well, Thrawn's just got some nerd in the back. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, if you spin the angular
Well,
momentum
actually-
of the ship around and you switch the thrusters at 97%, we'll get an anti-helix maneuver and we'll outflank them. What?
And Palpatine just shut up.
Yeah.
What he said.
It's like I believe we call that the Holdo maneuver now. So.
I believe he's tooling with you, sir. So yeah, that's an example of those are harder reads. I like those books, but each time I read it, it happens without fail. There'll be one day that I'll be sitting there reading it for like 30 minutes and go, okay, what now? What's going on?
Let me just.
What's
go
going
back
on
a few
now?
pages.
I gotta go back a chapter, a full chapter.
You were talking though. You mentioned. I mean, you just reminded me of so many good scenes from Lost Stars.
Lost Stars is
I
unreal.
just-
It's
the
so
whole
good.
ending,
So
literally
good.
everything about it.
It's emotional. It's
It
cool.
touches
the way it
everything
touches
that a
canon
film-
stuff, but is a little bit to the side.
It touches everything that a major, feature film
Yeah.
would have. It's got like the journey, but then some twists, the romantic side. It's just
It's so
makes
good.
you even look at this and be like, whoa, wait, what? That actually does kind of make sense. And then you're like, okay, yeah, but they're bad. But here they're kind of helping out.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it can both be bad and then also by the perspective and limited and intentional limited knowledge that Palpatine has shared with these number of people.
Yeah.
They're like, I can
Right.
totally see their perspective
Totally
of why. Because that's always like a. I think they've done. I think Claudia Gray, who wrote Lost Stars, did a great job of acknowledging that
Right.
there is a right side here.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
is
yeah.
one side who is actively building a Death Star.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is usually
Life
the
Star.
defining
That's
thing.
not what's up for
There are
debate.
mistakes on both sides. Just as Saw Gerrera does stuff that you're like, that's not exactly the actions of a good
Right.
guy. That's maybe someone who's now gone too far and has crossed the line.
Right.
And I think the Andor series is going to do a great job
Yeah.
of this. Of like,
The writing.
what will you become? Have you come here to kill me? Jin, all this dialogue will be cut. They
Save
cut
the
so much
rebellion.
from save the tree. Save the tree. Yeah. What is she proposing?
That's your
My favorite. line.
favorite quote.
I love it. So
I think what you're saying though is what
what was I
Claudia
saying?
Gray does well in that
Yeah.
book is she doesn't write in a way that she tries to make you think the Empire
True,
is in
yes.
the right. She writes in a way
Right.
to make you understand why there's certain people on the planet that are.
That's
in
what I'm trying to
favor
get
of
at.
The Empire.
She gives sympathy. She allows you to empathize and create sympathy for the particular characters, not for the side of the Empire.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what she's really good at. It can be complicated. There can be good people working on the Death
And because
Star
you, as the
who
reader,
don't
know the story,
Yeah.
know the Empire, the whole time you're like, but if only you knew more.
There's also people. I think she does a great job of. I don't want to get into too much of the spoilers, but there are particular characters who are like, I lost friends when they don't call it the Death Star for them, but they're like, when my friends died
At
on
the
the
space
space
station.
station when these rebel terrorists showed up and blew up our space station.
And then it
Yeah.
makes you
So
think.
like,
and
if
you're
that's the only perspective you knew, I could totally understand how
of
you
course
grew up
you're gonna
hating
hate
these
the rebels.
rebels who you believe are the terrorists. Like
Yeah.
you have no idea.
And meanwhile, those people that were working on the space station didn't know everything they were doing either. They're just
I was
like,
following orders.
right?
and
They
now
don't
I'm
know
gone.
that what the
Yeah.
thing's actually capable.
They're like,
of.
listen,
Only
I'm
the
on the-
higher ups do. So
Hey,
like,
listen, I work on the south wing. I heard on the west side there's this guy who walks around in a black cape, talks about dark magic and stuff. You hearing about this? Like, shh. They're listening.
right?
Sector 12. There's a bunch
Sector
of
12.
kyber crystals or something. I
Is it
don't know
Kyber
what
Crystal?
they're
I don't know what's
powering.
going on. Anyone see that giant beam of light in that planet blow up?
yeah.
I'm trying to
But
think
you're
this is
right
a bad
though,
idea.
because then it makes you think. You're like, from their perspective, Luke did just kill everybody on.
Like,
Yeah,
on
millions,
the Death
probably.
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
Literally
So many
everybody
people.
on the Death Star.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that's a great one. So Lost Stars. We can just even as a group. Any others you want to nominate out there? As
my
some
first
things that
thought
could be
are-
adapted to an animated series, a film,
Yeah.
or live action or something.
I mean, I love the Ahsoka book. It wouldn't be my first choice to make into a film,
It's a-
though. I think it's a good addition to the stories that we've gotten from Rebels and Clone Wars with her character.
Yeah.
I
I thought that one kind of nailed it as a book. Not gonna lie.
yeah, it was good.
Like,
I also think what's the Dawn?
New Dawn.
New Dawn. New
That's
Dawn
a
was
great-
good. Good addition leading
It's a
up
great,
into Rebels.
That's a
Kanan
great
Jarrus
Kanan focused
backstory.
book. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And Hera, there's
how they met.
the Caleb Doom stuff.
So that's
is
good,
great.
but I don't know. Like we've already kind of seen the rest of the story, so I don't know if I necessarily need that.
Yeah.
Lost Stars would be amazing as a movie. I think it hits all the points.
Yeah.
The only other stuff I really think of that I would want as much maybe as Lost Stars would be the Light of the Jedi, or
High
just
Republic
these
in
High
general.
Republic in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically Light of the Jedi because it's big scale. Like when you're reading it, I feel like I'm reading like A New Hope, like the first of a Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
Because it is. I mean,
Well, it is.
It is, but I
You
mean,
got
like,
Avar
I feel like
Kriss,
I'm
when you
reading
got
like,
everyone
like a movie
tuning into
script.
the Force at the same
Oh my
time,
gosh.
like trying to see that when
Even
they're
though
all
it's
tuned in.
there's as you're reading, you can picture the cinematic scenes that are going on. That like the abilities they have with the Force, and you're like, I can totally visually see this on
What
screen.
do you think, Light of the Jedi movie, and then totally blanking? Is it Into the Dark? Is that the first one?
Into the Dark?
Yeah.
That's the, like
Into
the
the Dark.
sub
Yeah.
sub book.
I
That
love
one.
that
Maybe
one.
that one's like the show
Yeah.
that expands on everything.
We'll have to talk
Like, that'd be
about
kinda
High
cool.
Republic.
Into the
on
Dark
here.
was Claudia Gray, right?
That was
That
Claudia
was
Gray.
Claudia Gray
Yeah.
also. She just
Yeah.
crushes
She's
it.
killing it.
Yeah.
We'll have to do some full breakdowns on some of the Light of the
I
or some
haven't-
of the High Republic.
I haven't read
books.
Fallen Star yet. That's the Claudia Gray
I
one.
know.
And it's the Fallen
just-
the beacon.
Yeah.
right?
Sitting
Yeah.
on my table.
Yeah,
I know,
I have it
I
too.
know.
It's in my office sitting there.
I
I'm
just
just
haven't
like-
read it yet.
It's just
Looking at
waiting. I'm like, Yeah.
But those are like when I'm reading those, I'm like I can visually see. I mean, we've all read Light of the Jedi, so like the jumps, without giving too much away.
it's
'cause
awesome.
If you guys haven't read it, go read it.
Yeah,
But
do it.
the
Literally
style,
stop the podcast,
the jump
go
scene-
read it. Come
Yes.
back.
yeah,
Yes.
stop, go read the entire book
Yes.
tonight. Come back, finish the
Yep.
video. Obviously, like
You
and
know what?
subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. Pause the
Hit the bell.
podcast. Go tell 10
Hit
people
the bell.
about
Turn your noties on.
What you do is you pause the podcast. Go tell 10 friends. Tell 10 of their friends.
It's
Come to the
pyramid scheme.
podcast, and then you can leave as long as you bring 100 people with you. Yeah.
But no, like you read those, and I'm like, I can picture all of this in a movie. It's big scale. I mean,
Which, credits to how it's written. Written.
Yeah.
Way to have
Yeah.
it written.
but
It is-
it's
though.
funny though
It
because
jumps
Into the
off the
Dark
page.
again, it's Claudia Gray, so it's extremely well written book. But that is more of a here's a group of people, let's tell their story. Whereas
Yeah.
Light of the Jedi is here's
Feels
what's going
very
on in the
galactic.
galaxy.
Yep.
Yeah, here's what's going on in the galaxy. We're jumping from character to character to character. Into the Dark is here's your group, here's the main characters. We're sticking out this journey.
Yeah.
Which I think is intentional, too.
Intentional,
Of that
yeah.
they had to they're kicking off the High Republic,
Right.
And they knew what they had with
Yeah.
Light of the Jedi. They're like, we got to set the state of the galaxy. They got to set the state of the Republic at the time too.
Yeah.
Like they really get into the politics of it too, and
They do.
the way Jedi are
they
almost
show
like
you differences between
Jedi
the
show up like
Republic now
policemen
and-
sometimes,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
solve like a civil dispute. We heard some loud yelling. The Jedi have come in as a.
Go home. Okay.
you want to go home and rethink your life.
just need some rest. Sounds like neither of you communicated well. It's just. It's so
It's
many
so
Jedi.
good.
They're just like dog barking no longer. It's-
That's another thing too about the books are like some of these animals that are involved with them
Talking
going
about
around.
Geode?
Geode.
Geode.
Oh, God. Geode. If you guys
The
don't know what
giant
Geode
rock.
is because you haven't read the book yet, it's
Geode.
literally a real being that's a giant rock.
Yeah.
Which I watched an interview. This is a tangent. I watched an
Geode.
interview about writing Geode into the story, and how people at first were like, "You can't do that. It's just like it doesn't
My
say
pet rock
anything."
Geode. No, it's not a pet rock.
But
It's
it,
not a
but
pet
it
rock.
actually does stuff. You just don't really see it.
Yes.
They're like, "How is this gonna land? Like, is this gonna take well?" And then I saw like a bunch of these. We watch other Star Wars creators, obviously, and Star Wars Explained. I think they were talking had a breakdown about what Geode is and why we love Geode. I was
so
like, that
great.
is awesome.
Just the perfect the wackiness of Star Wars right
Yeah.
there.
it's so good.
Perfectly
A
captured.
rock.
That's it.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's just a rock.
It's fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah. Charhounds.
Yeah,
you
there's-
got the giant lion like beast
Oh,
things
yeah.
that are. Yeah, it's just crazy, but
There's so much there.
so nice. Yeah, it's good. But so that would be a medium for sure. Books of bringing those into movies or TV shows. I still think like I agree with Joe. Like it's hard not to look at the movies and be like the movies are the top. Like
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Like I think I feel the same way. Like as much as even when I'm watching
it's just different.
even when I'm
It's just
watching
different.
Mando. When I watch Mando, I love it. And again, there could be a number of reasons. I love it so much. Talk about Mando so much on here. Book of Boba Fett. Love it. There's maybe it's something of the communal experience of going to the theater, the months of trailers leading up to it, all this stuff. Countdown
That's what I was gonna say.
the day.
The exclusivity of like it's
You
coming
see
and
it.
that's it. So like yeah.
There's something about that, and I do think it's fair to like what Joe was saying too, of like there is as great as the shows are as far as visually, there is a grandness and you can see you can see the budget.
Yeah, well, yeah.
There's a difference between a very expensive $80 million Disney Plus series versus a $220 million movie. There's different, and again, it's more obvious. I think that some of the scenes in like Joe was saying too, you can kind of you can tell sometimes some of the scenes being more confined of like, oh, we're going to follow Mando through this one part of Mos Eisley, and we're not going to look anywhere else because we're on a sound stage. And we're like, you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
You can tell, but I think they pull it off as great.
And you can see some locations are
great.
places they actually went. I know they went to some places for
I think that one of the
some
things that jumped out to me when we watched the trailer for Obi-Wan. Yeah, I don't know how much of it was shot on the volume versus, because again, this isn't Favreau. But Lucasfilm uses this stuff now, and even Marvel is using the volume for some stuff now. But at least from the trailer, it immediately felt bigger. At least what I thought from the trailer of Mando and Boba. I would say Boba especially too. There are moments, even though we have huge fight scenes like the Rancor scene and all of this stuff that's just massive. It does feel like because we're following the one kind of main character, and then we do veer off into things. We had 2 episodes in Book of Boba that are not focused on Boba. Everyone's talked about that for a long time. But because it is always kind of keeping in frame like the main person for the majority of the time with both Mando and that, it is different than we have a Finn and Rose story over here. We have Rey. We go back to the Empire. We have this. There weren't a ton of scenes, and it's not a criticism. It's just a different style of storytelling. There's not a ton of scenes in Book of Boba Fett where they're like, now we're just going to go and we're just going to sit for 15 minutes and hear all of the villains scheming and like their plans of like how are we gonna face this Boba Fett and like talking about that. It's all from Boba's perspective. Like even when we get to the villains, it's because Boba decided he's gonna go talk to them and he's gonna go talk to. So it's just a different style of storytelling. But with Obi-Wan, at least from the trailer so far, it does look like multiple planets. We're jumping around.
Yeah.
I do think, and they've already shown us, Obi-Wan doesn't look like he's sitting there at that Inquisitor's table when all those Inquisitors sitting there. So it's gonna be Obi-Wan's perspective. We're going then Empire's perspective with Inquisitors. We're gonna have Vader. We possibly some Palpatine, maybe, or at least Hollow Palpatine. Who knows? It feels like maybe the storytelling style might even be a little more kind of like the films of like going to different pockets
planets,
and different
places. Yeah.
And even though it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's not called Revenge of the Sith Part 2. Even though I think they'll have similar vibes there, it's Kenobi's story. Everything will be to serve Kenobi. That style of storytelling will be probably a little bit more similar to the films, which I am very excited about. We've talked about this in the podcast before. Of the Favreau and Filoni have a very specific style of storytelling that I like. It's a slow burn a lot, which I do. That's one of the things that really benefits for the series versus like a film or versus a limited series like Kenobi. Kenobi's a limited series.
Yeah.
It looks like we're getting 6 episodes and that's it. And because of that, you can't tell the Maul story arc of what happened in Clone Wars through Rebels without taking the amount of time.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think different stories fit different styles and different mediums. But if you were to take, is there any film outside? Is there any film that you think, not that it would be served better? You can say that. I mean, you can be like, oh, I would have preferred this, or that you're like, oh, if we were to take this and stretch it out into something. And again, maybe you could say that part of Rogue One is doing that now with Andor. Like they're taking a character like that.
I mean, I think we see some of that, like we kind of touched on earlier, was Episode 3. We kind of see that played out a little bit more with Clone Wars. So they kind of did that.
They kind of did that for sure.
Oh, man. But you're saying just like if I could take any of the movies and just see more of that story? Or
or if
just
they're like
the
told
same story, but just more scenes in between of deeper moments?
I mean, I mentioned Rise of Skywalker earlier. I do know that some people's criticism, and I love Rise of Skywalker, but some people's criticism is that it's at a breakneck pace. Like that, they're like,
I
listen.
agree. It
Somehow,
starts in there.
not my favorite line.
Yeah.
I've joked about this before. Somehow Palpatine returned. Like they even and again,
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't think that that's necessarily like, oh, that was a big flaw of the movie or anything. I think that that's kind of in line with what Star Wars does. Of like, hey, you want to know how Palpatine returns? Go read the novelization, because I've read the novelization,
Sure.
and they do get into a lot more of specifics of like his contingency plans and cloning and all this
But for the
stuff.
sake of the movie, this
For
is
the
what
sake of
we're
the
going
movie,
with.
it's like, hey, use your imagination. Like that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And
Somehow Palpatine's returned.
And that word created the spin-off Palpatine somehow TV show.
yeah, exactly. So
Right.
so I think that there's always in the movies pockets or like a story here or there or
And
like
sometimes it's intentional
things.
now with their
Yeah.
shows coming. Yeah.
there's sometimes things where they're setting up and they're setting up something
Yeah.
that you're like, hey, we're gonna explore this later on, or it's just like, hey, use your imagination on this one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
any
I don't-
other films or anything like that, or it could be vice versa. Anything show wise, we've only gotten a couple of things, but you could go show animated or live action. And you're like, ooh, I would love to
Yeah.
see this part or this arc or something as a film. I don't know.
Man,
Again,
that's
what do I
interesting.
know?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Do you have
Can we
one?
take- can
Do
we
you have
take
one?
games?
Sure, yeah, go
Yeah.
games.
Oh yeah.
It was Battlefront 2, right?
Oh,
Like the remake Battlefront 2.
yeah.
With
The story. Are you
what's her
talking about the
name?
storyline?
Iden
Iden Versio.
Versio. That'd be kind of a
Dude.
fire movie, TV show, whatever.
Getting
Yeah.
Kylo
Just like
involved
flesh
too.
that out a little bit. Ooh, like
That's
Iden
sick,
Versio
that's
live
true.
action or
What a
animated
great
or
story
anything.
too.
that was a great
Great.
story.
Starts
Yeah.
off as an elite.
Cinder, and then
Yeah.
they bring that in
Oh my
Mando.
gosh.
Mando.
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 Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's
that's a
good.
great one.
I totally. I
As
would
soon as
think
you said
Battlefront.
as soon as you said Battlefront, and then I was like, he's going Battlefront 2, Iden Versio, Iden Versio.
Versio. It's funny because I think when I think Battlefront, I mean obviously it's a fantastic game, but my first thought is just like I don't think the story mode, just
Right.
because I'm always Battlefront is known for just like the, but you're totally right. That's one of the best things about the game is that
great.
story mode is fantastic. Then they added the expansion part too, the little like years later story where they continue that part, and it's so good.
Yeah.
When did they add this?
They added it a while ago. So there's the main story, and then there's a little add-on they had later on that's part of an update.
I
You
think
haven't
I don't
played
know
it?
if-
Where
I
she's
don't-
older?
I don't know if I played this
She's
part.
older.
I think I played the
She's
game.
got
when it
gray
came
hair.
out.
You got to go finish it.
Oh, I'm hyped.
It's good.
I'm hyped. I'm going home now.
It's
Bye.
good. All right, see ya. Joe's off the cast. No, but no, that's good though. The story. I mean, Fallen Order,
On order.
fantastic storyline.
story.
I mean, that's the whole. We've talked about it on here before. Part of the reason why I love the game so much is because I've said over and over, I couldn't stop playing because it was like I was watching a movie.
Yeah.
Because visually you're seeing it. I mean, yeah, you're playing and you're participating, but visually you're like, this is a movie.
The visuals are just
participating in it, but the story is
Yeah.
fantastic. And you touch so many different things. You go to Dathomir, you go to so many different things. You get some Night Sisters. Dude,
Yeah.
it's so
Night
good.
Sisters are they're great.
Yeah. So good. But man, if I took one of the films, do you have a film you would take?
a film to make just other than a film. That's like kind of tough.
That's hard.
I've got a
I
couple
feel like
in
you
mind.
could say episode 2 or 3, but that's just Clone Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Episode
2
1,
maybe. Episode,
Maybe. Okay, because like,
Stretch that. Give
can-
me more
can you-
Qui-Gon.
give me more Qui-Gon.
That's true.
So
Maybe
that's
give
something-
give
yeah.
me some like wow, Palpatine and Maul. Maybe some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it just like tags on at the end, and it's
like a
Anakin
prequel
growing
to
up
the
a
So
little.
I
prequel.
can tell you
prequel to
I
the
can tell you
prequel.
that based off of I don't know if either of you guys have read it's Legends now. But the
Boo.
Darth Plagueis novel.
Moron.
More. We have to with nothing again. I almost said with Joe here. We have to have a moron chat. That almost came off horribly, and yet I still said it.
Which how can Moron not come off horribly?
Yeah, real quick. Morons. We always have to have that just so we can post that on Instagram later.
Just so we can post it.
It's all
I
for
think
clicks.
people will post it for us.
Look at these
them,
morons.
cancel them.
Look at these morons. They're even chanting. We're morons. The Darth Plagueis novel, written by James Luceno, he wrote the Tarkin novel, which is canon, and a few other. I mean, he wrote a lot of the old Star Wars novels back in the day too, the old Legends stuff. But the Darth Plagueis novel has some very interesting reveals in it. One of which, so the Darth Plagueis novel, it's been out since 2009. Look it up. Sorry,
Spoiler.
Chad. Don't give me that face, Chad.
Don't give me that face. It's been out.
Not even that look. Don't give me your face, Chad. I don't know what that was about. There are some things in there. So the general kind of just synopsis of the story, without getting into too much of it, a lot of it is Darth Plagueis.
Uncles in the chat said more runs.
More runs.
Flagged
More
it.
runs.
It flagged it.
Hilarious.
I had to allow the
I
show.
love it.
That's hilarious.
The Darth Plagueis novel. Darth Plagueis novel gets into his master and him as the rule of two and all this stuff, and then it talks about his master dying, being killed, finding a young Palpatine, all of this stuff about Palpatine, and a lot of it's about Palpatine.
Yeah.
A lot of it's about Palpatine and Plagueis. But one of the big reveals in that is that Darth Plagueis is still alive throughout the entire event, throughout all the events of the Phantom Menace. And that when
So it's not till later.
no, and that it's not until later. And so what's
he
interesting is he
took on Maul.
yes, and they talk about it in the novel as to why they did this and what the plan was and all of this stuff. And during the events of Phantom Menace, it's interesting now going back and watching Phantom Menace and thinking, and again, even though Plagueis is not mentioned anywhere in the prequels,
But
until
just thinking,
episode
what if
3,
he's alive?
but
now?
like thinking like they would talk and he would go have these meetings and he would go as the senator and he'd be talking about Senator Amidala and all of this or Queen Amidala because it was episode 1. He's talking about all this stuff. Then he'd go back and he'd be talking with Plagueis, and they're planning together how that he needs to. Well, you need to play the long game, and you need to do this, and they're like, okay. And he's talking.
So
about,
Plagueis gave him the whole plan.
he helped him to become and Palpatine, unfortunately, taught him everything he knew and killed him in his sleep.
Which, of course, was losing his power. Which, of course, eventually he did.
of course, he did.
Which eventually.
Ironic. But it's really
others from dying, but not himself.
Create life.
Create.
All this to say, you guys should check out the Plagueis. Plagueis is one of the best books I've ever read.
it's
You'll
so
fly
good.
through like that. But it's like a crime novel. Like it feels like reading like feels like reading an adaptation of like it feels like reading
I'd watch it.
show.
feels like reading The Dark Knight as a book. Like it's like the Joker, this thing, and then you've got people on the other side who are trying to. It's just this dark crime gangster thing about how they influence the banking clan and how they get all this
The
money.
banking clan that comes up in Clone
Yeah,
Wars. So
yeah. They get into it's so good. But that's one that I would say as like a series. If you want to get, some people are like, oh, I want a dark Star Wars series or a Sith-centered Star Wars series or that type of a thing. A young a Plagueis, Palpatine, they've got that as the blueprint. It's something. It's great. It's really good. That would be definitely one of my suggestions. Again, it's Legends, but it's great.
I would love it. Plus, just to gain some wisdom from
Darth Plagueis
The
the
Wise.
Wise.
that would be interesting.
It's not destroy the Jedi, I would tell you.
I
still love that. Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so
powerful and
wise.
so
We're like,
wise.
why are you?
How
What are you?
is this-
How are you watching that thinking that guy's anything but
How is
pure
this guy
evil?
not? Yeah.
Why are you getting so happy? Darth is so powerful
And so wise.
He could use influence the midichlorians to create. You're like,
He's
"Whoa,
got that look, dude.
easy,
Like,
yeah. You're like,
Hey,
okay.
easy. You're looking at.
it's like,
thinking
oh,
of-
let me take you to this
thinking
opera.
of
That's
Plague-
like,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Jesus.
And Anakin the whole time is just like, is it possible to learn this power?
I'll do whatever you ask.
Good.
No. I think, I mean, going back to the game idea, we've said it before, obviously. Some Knights of the Old Republic stuff would be sick. And
Yeah.
again, predicting, it's only a matter of time.
Is this
Before-
a Boba Fett? No,
It's a
is
Knights,
this a?
Knights know it's gonna happen.
Is Knights know it's gonna happen? This is a.
Pushing.
Prognostication, Knights of the. I got nothing. So you think you got something?
Uncle said, "Hey guys, sorry I missed podcast tonight. Hey, you're here in Chad.
I just realized
Welcome
Uncle's
to Chad.
not here. No,
Uncle's now Chad. You know him well, Chad.
You know him well, Chad.
No, but he
Chad.
said, "Did you mention Light of the Jedi as a film yet?" Yes, we did. Yes.
We said it's Uncle. This is directly to you now.
Yeah. If you're not Uncle,
If you're not Uncle.
keep scrolling.
literally just keep scrolling.
Videos.
It's so cinematic. That book jumps off the page. Of just that is one of the most visual books I've probably ever read. As far as like the way it's described, the way, like we said, the way it jumps to different things, but also that book challenged me or made me expand my understanding or my just kind of basically it challenges what you think you think is capable with the Force when it makes sense, all the stuff of at a time when there are so many Jedi, so many people who are taking their training so seriously, that what happens if they actually join together to do some great act using the Force versus just like, great, we're all Jedi, it's cool because we individually can go and handle a lot of things. It's like, but what if we all tune into the Force together and do something?
Yeah,
we can stop, we can save, and stop galactic disasters and save planets and save people from
crazy.
The Legacy Run.
It's
just so great.
But
Uncle, that's a great one.
Fantastic.
It's a great one.
Any of the High Republic stuff. But Knights, we've already had so many of those stories, and those are circulating back now with Lucasfilm and with the games. Like they're making a remake of Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah. So I think it's only a matter of time before we get a Knights of the Old Republic movie. I think we'll get a High Republic something first, just because it seems like that's sort of the direction they chose to go with the novels from Disney's point. I mean, so I think we're going to be getting an announcement soon for a High Republic movie.
Breaking
or
news!
Show.
Extra! Read
Some
all
would
about
even
it.
say maybe next month at a particular celebration coming up.
At Marvel Celebration.
At Marvel Celebration, they're going to announce.
Wait, is this at Star Wars Guys Celebration?
We should have a Star Wars Guys celebration. Let's celebrate us.
Celebrate us.
Everyone's always celebrating other people. Let's celebrate us.
Celebrate us. You can come with your top 100 Star Wars Guys episodes list. Top 100 episodes.
100.
Not
It's
their
like all
best.
we've got.
This one, not their best. This was they were talking over each other the whole time. The funny bits did not.
The episodes.
Yeah.
It's 80.
Like 87.
I love it.
Oh,
That's so
man.
good.
But no, I mean, I think we might get some of that stuff. Again, I don't know if it'll specifically be like the book that's being turned into a movie, which I think is interesting now that Star Wars has the option to do that.
Speaking of Knights, would you want a Knights of Ren series?
Ooh.
Animated or live action? Not. Do you think they realistically will go there? Because I do
with
think that they're
Kylo
going
or like before Kylo, like the actual like organization of them and all that stuff.
I think with whatever you want it to be.
I think with
Just
whatever you
go
want
straight
it to be.
Will Forte there. Well, I think that you should do whatever the flip you want.
The flip you want.
It could be either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love it. I mean, I love all Star Wars content. Give me more. Give me more.
But does that
Kathy.
more?
More.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the Disney Plus to do it. Will you help me?
But no, yeah, I
And
think
John
Knights-
Boyega's like, nah, dude.
That's something that's a good example though. That's something I would want as a series maybe, and not.
Yeah, that would be an example of
Not-
something that they
not a
obviously
movie.
teased and gave a little bit of. That you're like, oh, they could expand on that,
Yeah.
or they could give. Again, we've talked about Crimson Dawn would be a cool
That'd be a good series.
animated show or live action would be cool. Give me more
Emphasis
Kira. anything.
show.
I would love.
Ooh, I
honestly,
love Enfys Nest.
I love
Love
Enfys
Enfys
Nest.
Nest.
I think the Marauders, their Enfys Nest group. I also
That's
love the
great.
design. I think Enfys Nest
fantastic.
design was always so cool.
I think the Knights of Ren honestly would make for a great animated
That'd be dope.
show.
it'd be cool.
Lego
Because-
animated, right?
Lego.
Oh,
animated.
yeah.
Yeah. Although I want Lego live action. People playing.
Seriously
with
though,
Legos.
you could go Knights
Playing with
playing with Legos. It's the Knights playing with
It's live
Legos.
action Legos. It's actual hands playing.
It's the
with
live
Legos.
action Knights of Ren playing with their Lego sets.
But it's like, so it cuts to them. They're like basically on like a hollow chess table, and they're just playing. And it cuts
They're
like
playing.
office style, and they're like, I didn't think he was gonna do this. Now I'm here in this position. Super
That's
awkward.
Totally. They're like advice. Let him win. Let Kylo win. He's like, why? He's like, because that's because non-Kylos don't cut people's arms off their sockets when they lose.
They
Cuts them because of
lose.
lightsaber tantrum. But with
Lightsaber
the
tantrum.
knights, I think that's the interesting one too. Of
Oh, you just gave me a great idea.
well, good because I lost
I'm
it.
stealing it. I'm stealing it. Give me Knights, but the not animated, the anime.
That's what I was actually gonna say.
Vision style.
I'm
Just
so glad
there's
you just
something
said
about the darker
Yeah.
characters that fit so well with anime because
Oh,
you can make
true,
the,
for sure.
the aesthetics of the character look so cool. Like
Yeah.
You've also got the medieval
evil.
kind of aspect too.
Yeah.
That some of
Yep.
that stuff works great in that style of storytelling. I think Visions. I mean, I know it's considered like not necessarily canon, or it was basically like they're like, hey, blank slate.
Yeah.
There's no pressure to make sure this fits into every single thing.
tell a story.
We don't need.
And that's that.
It doesn't have to be canon that there was a Star Wars rock group, but it's still awesome.
It's
Like, it's
still
great. And,
great.
and then they've taken some of those. Like they took Ronin. They made
Or
that
a Star
character,
Wars lightsaber umbrella.
and- That's true.
Lightsaber
That
thing
wasn't
comes
umbrella.
out everywhere.
They're like, hey, like Filoni did it first with the helicopter sabers
Yeah.
in Rebels. So they're like, we can
We
an
can make
actual
the,
umbrella. We can do it. That was great.
But that episode is actually fantastic. But no, there's actually rumors I think of some continuation of some of the those Visions stories. So
I would love it.
I'd love that.
I love the
So
different.
cool.
Give me as much Star Wars as possible. Some of it's live.
Yeah.
We were
I
talking
think
about
that's
this before.
our consensus at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give me everything.
Give me
Anything.
everything.
All
That
of
is
it.
That's one of the great things of all the
So
different.
Bulba backstory? Give it to me.
Bulba.
Please. Why does he always say Poodoo? Did his,
How did he
father-
get into pod racing?
Was
What
Poo-
made him so good? Why are his legs so short?
Was Poodoo the nickname that his father gave him when he was, and this is a term of endearment? He's
And who's
saying
his
Poodoo.
parents?
Who-
They have to be. They
have to be somebody.
They have to be. Everyone has to be somebody.
Isn't that what the Last Jedi was telling us? You have to be, or was that not it?
That's the opposite of what the last show was. That is great. No, I think that there's a lot of different stories that I'm like, oh, I would like to see that adapted.
Ooh,
to
Uncle
this
said
or-
Yoda origin story.
See, there
we go.
there's a lot of.
We'd be going back a long time.
If we went back to, we talked about Uncle.
We see him in
We
We
High
did
Republic.
talk about
Long
some
time
High
ago.
Republic stuff, whether it be a series or a film or a trilogy. We could, we get Yoda in that time period in some of the novels.
Yeah,
we get
exactly.
Yoda.
He's in High Republic.
Yeah,
Well, I wonder when Yoda became the Grand Master
it's like, what
of the
age?
Council.
Give me
because
Yoda.
he's not in the
He's
High
just
Republic.
master.
Yeah,
Give me
he's not-
Yoda.
It's
Oh yeah,
Elzar, or was it Elzar Man?
Elzar Man.
Elzar Man, isn't
It
he?
might have
the-
been.
Was it?
There's
I don't
so
remember
many
who it
of
is.
the
There's so many
there's so many of the
names. I gotta
characters
go
that I
back
read. I read Light of the Jedi so fast,
And there's
then
so many characters, and I see them, and I'm like, oh wait, they're gone. Okay, great.
Avar Chris. They
I
got
don't-
Okay.
So I don't need to know this character. Okay.
Avar Chris. They've got some great High Republic
Avar
names.
Chris.
Yeah.
You get some great
Yeah.
High Republic names.
Loden Greatstorm.
Oh, Great Storm is great.
Oh,
Great Storm
give me
is
some
great.
Loden.
There's some good.
Loden. Bel Zettifar.
Yeah.
What are these fantastic?
They're
names.
great names.
That's okay. Forget writing a whole novel. How do you come up with these names?
These names are great.
They're great.
Man.
You ever try to do like character creation in a game? It's like name, you're like, and you just freeze.
Yeah.
Way too long.
Bill.
Just Bill.
I'm like, that's not a Star Wars name.
That's
Yeah,
no.
Star Wars has these names that feel Star Wars.
Yeah.
Elzar Man. Bel
Elzar.
Zettifar.
That's great. That's good stuff.
That's so good.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
There's only so many places we can go with this, but there's I guess one final kind of follow up here on this topic as far as the different mediums of Star Wars, because there are so many, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. Does it feel like we talking about the fallen star sitting on
Yeah.
your desk or sitting at home? Does it feel like overwhelming sometimes trying to keep up with everything, because you're like, well, because I have this mental, like I'm not gonna fall behind on Book of Boba Fett. I'm not gonna fall behind
True.
on.
It's easy to fall behind on the books.
I'm not gonna fall behind on, and like the comics for me are an afterthought most of the time, because like first of all, I don't buy all the comics, but I
and they're hard to keep up with.
they're hard to
yeah.
keep up with. There's so many.
It's just
But But is that because there are so many? Does it feel like also maybe you're like, well, when it becomes live action, I'll pay attention to it, or when it becomes an animated show? Because the reason I'm getting at this is, I know for at least us two, and Joe, maybe yours was the same experience. I was aware of Clone Wars back in the Cartoon Network days, but I didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
Didn't really watch it then. And it was initially kind of like, oh,
And to be fair, I don't think and maybe yourself too, is like, I don't know if we were at the time as headfirst into Star Wars as we became.
Well, people
later
forget
on.
is that with the acquisition, so when Disney acquired Lucasfilm, there wouldn't be this Star Wars podcast without it. And I know almost every. I mean, I think every Star Wars
it's
podcast,
heartbreaking.
every Star Wars podcast that I've listened to, like that is currently on now.
Yeah.
Every single one of them are the same. Where they're like, oh yeah, this is all that's come after
Disney.
There weren't a lot of podcasts that are just like, you know, it came out in 1983, but in 2008, let me talk to you about Return of the Jedi. Like, even though I love Return of the Jedi, or like, or especially when the last film was the prequels, that people weren't like, you know, I want to do a deep dive on young Annie. We're like, now we do that stuff because we look back at it with fondness and we love those films. But
Musa,
dollar
Musa diving into that.
dollar Falagats. We're like, okay, the Republic is doomed. Jar Jar, the dude who was banished from his own, he was to be
banished for being clumsy.
He was to be
Yeah,
punished. He was to be punished, and now we just gave him a government position. We're in trouble. He's giving speeches in front of the entire Senate,
and doesn't know
Like, oh,
words. Yeah.
So this is how liberty dies, with a bumbling fool. No, just kidding, Jar Jar. We love you. Well, no, we love you. What I was getting at though, with Disney, we love to laugh at you.
That's a
And
clip.
the truth comes out.
That's a clip. We all look around. We love to laugh at you.
The with the sale, what I was getting at is it reinvigorated and re-energized a lot of people for Star Wars. Obviously, if you want to look at some of the best trailer reaction videos, go look at some Episode 7, Force Awakens, the first Star Wars movie we've gotten since 2005. Everyone was so excited, and now and again at the time it wasn't like, oh, we're coming back with this and Disney Plus and all that. It was like, we come back a Star Wars movie. This is Star Wars, and it's like we finally got this. And now also Rebels came out around the same time. Rebels, I believe, was the first thing.
You don't get that without.
You don't get that without Disney, and you also don't get the final season of the Clone Wars. You don't get Clone Wars saved without Disney. All that stuff.
Clone
because of
Wars
that.
saved.
So what I'm getting at is with some of the people who like to complain about, oh, Disney ruined Star Wars. Well, the last one we would have got was Revenge of the Sith, plus
a lot of hate,
plus the Clone Wars animated movie, which was not well received. And then the animated show, which was great, but slept on. That people were not really watching.
Well received at the beginning either.
No, especially not at the beginning. But people who were there were people who were watching it at the time, and that were like, oh, this is really great.
I've seen people on TikTok that are posting that said, I literally got into Star Wars. There's Star Wars accounts that are like, I started watching the Clone Wars as a kid.
Yeah.
And now there's Star Wars.
It's a lot of people's entry point.
Wow.
But so all that to say, it's funny though that looking back, all this stuff as far as the just the enthusiasm for these things, it always changes over time. But these shows, there's just so much more out there now, because at the time it was like we went from one movie every 3 years. That's what we had.
Yeah.
Then prequels come back. And again, we had some Legends novels, Timothy Zahn, all that stuff in the late 90s. Or mid 90s for the novels, and then late 90s prequels start. One movie every 3 years. 2005 we're done.
Yeah.
Then we get 2008-ish Clone Wars. Clone Wars starts. You're doing all that. Some people are watching it, some people are not. I was aware of it. Of like, oh yeah, this, and I knew that like some young kids really liked this. So like, oh yeah, it's that small anime, Roger, and I like had seen like a couple clips of it, and it was like, oh, this is clearly for like Star Wars for just really young kids.
I love Star Wars, but
then and then it starts trickling out of like
my first
Darth.
thought.
I remember being in like high school and going into like college, 'cause I guess it would have been probably like 2011 or 12, maybe, when all of a sudden word starts checking out like, by the way, did you know Darth Maul is back? And I was like, what? They're like, Darth Maul's alive. He's in the Clone Wars show. And then I was like, so they're just undoing.
Like,
So I was like, they're just undoing stuff. And then people are like, yeah, but he comes back with spider legs. And I was like, I'm out.
I was out before. I'm out even more now.
All this to say,
That's
it's
not my
now.
Maul.
That's not my Maul.
Yeah, that's not my Maul. My Maul has no legs. My Maul is the one.
Is dead.
My Maul
My
is
Maul
dead.
is dead.
You're gonna bring back my Maul? My Maul is dead. We'd rather him be.
So great.
We'd rather him be
We'd rather
dead.
his character die.
Be dead than
No.
come back with different legs. What a horrible argument.
Tangent of Maul. Have
It was
you
great.
Has anyone done Phantom Menace Lego Star Wars yet?
Oh,
In the game
haven't
yet?
done it yet.
I haven't done Phantom
Okay,
Menace
then I'll
yet.
leave it be.
yeah, okay.
Oh.
Okay. Can't wait to get to it. This is a long-winded answer of just saying with you guys too. With so much now. So then the way it changes now with Disney, then it became, okay, we've got at the same time new movie with Force Awakens, but we also got Rebels coming out. And then
Yeah.
I wasn't watching Rebels at the
And
time.
then the stories too.
What'd you say?
Then they come out with a
Yeah,
story.
after then you got Star Wars story, you got
Which
Rogue
is a
One.
whole other new thing. 'Cause
Solo.
We're like, wait, a Star Wars movie that's not going to be part of a trilogy?
Then when I started really diving, and I read some novels back in the day, but not a ton of this of the Star Wars books around the prequel time. But I had read some, and our older brother Matt had read a lot more of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until around the time of Last Jedi, or maybe going into Last Jedi, maybe it was time of, I think it was around the time of Last Jedi, is when I really started diving into a lot of the novels.
Yeah.
And I was reading, and Force Awakens sparked some of that too. It opened a bunch of questions. Typical JJ, as I love JJ.
typical
Opened a bunch
JJ.
of questions, and I'm like, well, now I want to know more. I've got to
Hey.
read all this stuff. But also then around that time we started getting into the animated shows, and then I was like, why have I slept on Rebels? Rebels is fantastic.
Maybe
and
spider
then people
legs
are like,
Aren't so bad.
but all this to say, our initial reaction, or at least Nate and I, and maybe Joe, the same thing, was when we got to the animated shows. When we thought of the animated shows, it was like, oh, you mean watching that animated show? And at the time, it was like, it's less than. It's like what you felt before
Yeah.
you started watching it. Nate and I joke around all the time, because even after I watched Clone Wars, and it was incredible, I said, Nate, you've got to, and Nate had just watched Rebels.
Yeah.
Nate had just watched Rebels
Powered,
and knew how good Rebels was and knew where it finished. Nate, you got to watch Clone Wars. Nate watched like 2 episodes and said, dude, I can't do it. I can't make it through.
I literally remember the moment. I was
And I said,
in college at the time,
and I
and
said,
I was
you joke,
trying
you
to
said, I
watch an
quit.
episode a night just because they're short, 20 minutes. I was like, all right, before I go to sleep, I'll just throw on an episode or two every night just to try and get things going and watch it. Literally, the first night I watched like the first episode, and I thought about
You texted
texting
me.
you, but I didn't yet. And I was like, I'll just give it one more. Started watching the second one. I go halfway through. I texted you. I was like, dude, I can't do it. It's so bad.
And so all this to say, though, I really don't think it's. I rewatched the first few episodes recently. I don't think it's nearly as bad as you remember.
No.
It's also just intentionally geared for a different audience
Yeah.
early on. That especially season
Early
1,
on, for
season
sure.
1, and then into season 2, and then it really changes
also-
a lot.
In all fairness, it was tough too going
And the animation's
From
different.
Rebels,
and stuff
where the
like that. It's way
animation-
aged different. Yeah, going
The
from
end
the end
of Rebels-
we watched it in reverse order. We watched End of Rebels to beginning
to
2008
beginning of
Clone
Clone Wars and
Yeah,
seeing
that's
the
just a-
difference in
Yeah.
animation too, and like Roger left and right. I was just like, dude, this is not even close to Rebels.
Yeah.
And then obviously you see where Clone Wars goes.
It was, and it's not a comparison really at all. But the animation style was like, it felt like you were watching like an old VeggieTales thing.
It really
Like
did.
it was like,
It really
Grapes
did.
of Wrath.
yeah, it's like this is not intent. This is not supposed to be groundbreaking technology of what
Yeah.
we're doing with.
Yeah.
But obviously, it progressed and everything. But
Now
Joe,
the big debate is what's better, Clone Wars or Rebels?
Did you have any hesitation diving into Rebels or Clone Wars, or were you aware of it before
I remember
you
we
ever
talked a
dove
little
into
bit
it?
So-
about it, but
I was aware of it.
Or how long ago
Saw it
did
on-
you watch it, or
How-
either of them? How long ago did you watch Clone Wars or Rebels? Is this a recent thing, or last couple years, or
Last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was aware of it. I mean, see it on Cartoon
Yeah.
Network, and I was like, that looks. It was an animated TV show. I had some friends that watched it growing up. I
Yeah.
was like,
yeah.
whatever. And then I wasn't even into Star Wars that much back then.
yeah?
Imagine. So, and then had another friend was like, dude, just like watch like one episode. And
You're like, this
Which-
episode's trash.
I think
Not
he showed me
good.
the one when Anakin went to it starts with M, right? The Force.
Mortis.
Mortis.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes. Oh,
And I was like,
what
That's
a
what you started on?
"What's up?" Like you just showed
What-
me a random episode.
what
and
a
I was like,
bonkers story arc too. The
Yeah.
craziest story arc. Like, if you want to think World Between Worlds is wacky,
Try
Mortis
going to the
is
planet where
off
the Force
charts.
starts,
It's off the
basically.
charts, cool, and off the charts. Like, this is Star Wars. or is
Imagine the
this-
Force, but like outside of the Force.
"Yeah,
Yeah, this is George to the max.
it
This
was
is great.
Max George."
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, this was just like it was like
way out there.
Talk about the
system,
wills.
shock to the
Yeah.
system," and I was like, "Okay, I don't know." And then
The brother, the sister, the father,
brother,
the
the-
trio, the trinity of the Force. What's
Yeah.
going on here?
I think it was on like Netflix at the time or something.
Yeah,
remember
it
what
probably
we watched
was.
it on.
I think it was.
Yeah.
because there was a big deal when it left. I think when it
Yeah.
left Netflix,
Yeah.
people were,
So and I didn't have Netflix, and I was like, whatever, and then I just forgot about it. And then you guys started, yes, master, and
Yes.
you
Shout
talked about
out.
you talked about Clone Wars, and you were like, it really is brutal the first like season or two, but it's so good. And I was like, all right, I've been needing something to watch. Like I was just going to the gym. I was like,
yeah.
25 minutes. It's great, like cardio.
It is perfect cardio
Kind
time.
of perfect. So I was like, all right. So just like
Throw an episode on.
downloaded them all. We won't speak from where. And Disney
That
Plus
is
didn't exist
Not
yet.
from Netflix.
It wasn't on Netflix. Whatever.
That is not the information you're
That was
looking
the
for.
information
Oh,
you're
that's
looking
good.
for. I was
along.
looking for it, but don't worry about it.
He was looking for
Yeah,
it.
Disney Plus now. It's like $5.
Yeah.
Disney is hurting for money, by the
Yeah,
way.
they are.
That's-
They are. Support your local cause. Shop local.
Shop local Disney. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a little rough.
Yeah.
It was definitely rough, and then yeah, I got all the way through, and then it was. I got super lucky with timing because I watched season 6, and like 2 months later, season 7 came out.
Great. So you didn't have to wait.
So I
Perfect.
didn't
That's
time.
great.
Yeah, so I was
So you had
like,
enough anticipation that you're like, I can't wait for this
I
to
was
come
like
out.
super stoked, like
Yeah.
losing my mind, stoked.
Got to
watching,
watch it
like,
weekly.
as soon as it came out, I was like, boom, on it, watch. I was like, so hyped, but it wasn't like what years or however
Yeah,
long it was.
yeah.
And then I did a watch through with Sarah, and yeah, it was. She was like, I don't know.
And I
I
will
was
say,
like, just stick, trust me.
I will say too,
I've been there. I've been
I've
there.
been there.
I've got boys
I
who've been
got
there.
you.
Just
we've all been there.
Yep.
And I will say too, Clone Wars is long too. It's not the Rebels rewatch of 4 seasons, and it's there's a lot of you'll get
Yeah.
multiple episodes of just droids going off doing things, and
Yep.
you've got random battle droid, different types of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it wasn't as bad as
Yeah.
I remember, but it is. Yeah, it's geared towards
Yeah.
a more. Kid
So if I'm
audience.
hearing
It's
you
just goofy.
correctly, our podcast helps steer you towards watching Rebels
One
and Clone Wars.
One might say.
Ooh.
You know what that means if you're listening. You need to go watch it.
And well, where there's one, there's thousands.
Well, it just goes Jeff Goldblum for some reason.
It has nothing to do with Star Wars whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff?
Jeff, looking at you.
I like it. So with the shows,
Yeah.
So you watched Clone Wars, and when did you watch Rebels?
After Clone Wars.
After Clone Wars,
Yeah.
Good order.
Yeah.
which is the proper order. We watched
yeah,
it
the
reverse.
right order.
Watched it in reverse, and there was a couple, namely one big story arc that comes to an end that were like interesting.
Interesting.
That ended. I think it probably would have a little bit more, even though I was still really
I
excited.
mean, we watched in that order, and we're after watching Clone Wars, we're like, well, we blew it. We definitely should have watched Clone Wars first.
Yeah.
But-
Uh-huh. We see Ahsoka meet Vader before we know who Ahsoka is.
yeah, we see. Yeah, we literally we're watching Ahsoka, and she shows up as Fulcrum, and I'm like, oh,
Like, cool.
who's that?
A new character, rad. Like everyone else is like, this
We
is
just
a
turned
huge
surfer,
reveal.
dude.
Keanu out of
Righteous,
nowhere.
dude. Yeah,
right, dude.
Keanu. Exactly.
But no, we like. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's the character they're talking about. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Yeah,
watched
we
it
had
the
no
wrong
idea.
way.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, she gets some highlights too in Rebels, which is cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
great
but
stuff.
the whole fight with Vader, I mean, you don't. None of that means the same unless you've seen Clone
Yeah.
Wars. So
And
Yeah.
I think Sarah saw Rogue One before. Hang on. No, I'm sorry. Solo. And so at the end, when Kira talks to Darth
Ooh.
Maul, she was like, "What's up?"
yeah.
And I was like,
first-
"We're watching Clone Wars."
yeah, nice.
gotcha.
Gotcha.
That was perfect. I had
Yeah.
people in the theater when I first saw.
Oh yeah, I remember
People were
that.
in the theater. They're like,
Wait,
the
what?
people were like, Darth Maul's alive. I'm like,
Just straight up. Yeah.
I'm like, it's funny that you have that strong of a reaction to Darth Maul, but have not heard at all that Darth Maul's
Yeah.
alive
never
in,
heard,
in animation. But it just shows it is a different audience. It reaches different. I mean, by far.
I think since Disney Plus too, people have started to hear more about
well, Disney
whether
Plus is
they've
doing,
watched it or not. They've heard more about that story.
Disney
Yeah.
Plus has done a great job with Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming out. Here's essential Kenobi episodes to watch
Yeah.
of the Clone Wars.
I mean, I know way
Yeah.
more people. That
Essential Mandalorian episodes
Yeah.
of the Clone Wars,
Yep.
essential Ahsoka episodes. They're doing a good job of sending people
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Clone Wars, which is great. Because I do think it's something that I would recommend everyone watching. I know that there's while I think that it has it's not the quality is so good. There's definitely like we said, we all said it kind of ramps up.
Yeah.
Like it starts in a place and you're like, okay, there's interesting stuff. In the first episode, I just rewatched first episode like last week or the week before. You have Ventress, introduces Ventress and Yoda and Dooku, and they're on maybe they're on Christophsis. They're on some planet, and there's this whole battle droids and stuff, and like, wait, what is going on? And Yoda's just like basically just cutting them down like nothing,
like butter.
like butter. Huh.
Butter.
But it ramps up so much that I always encourage people like, I get it. You're saying like,
I
listen,
get it.
I get it. I was there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
If you make it all the way through and don't like it, I'll apologize to you then. But I do believe you will like
Yeah.
it if you stick it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because of that, I think that the way we view even like different live action shows, like I get really excited for Bad Batch. Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I get as
In
excited
fact,
for
I'm
like
disappointed there's not more talk going on.
I
about
want to
Bad
get
Batch,
that
'cause I
release
want
date
that
because they
season
they
soon.
bumped it back. I want to get some more
Yeah.
Bad Batch, and I'd love to get another. I would love at Star Wars Celebration to get another animated show announced.
I think
possibly.
we might get the
just
rumor,
because I don't
rumored
necessarily
Maul.
think Bad Batch is probably going to go like 6 seasons or
Yeah.
anything like that.
No.
I think
so,
we're getting the Maul series.
So I think that they've got stuff in the works. We'll see.
It's the rumor. It's the rumor. Rumor has it. Maul series. I think we might get an
Uh,
announcement.
Sam
Witwer,
Witwer. Sam Witwer hasn't done
Sam
Maul
Witwer.
before in animated, has he?
He's only done live action.
That's great.
Yeah.
We
No,
kid.
yeah.
Because he does all the animated live
Yeah, he's great
animated
as
Maul
Maul.
stuff.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Star
Yeah,
Wars,
I mean, I
different
think,
mediums.
and you can
is-
see
there's-
they're taking from these different mediums and drawing them into the live action stuff. But
Chrysanthemum.
we're seeing
Chrysanthemum was a comic.
Chrysanthemum?
Was a comic
Exactly.
thing. Like there's
BD1 from
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when they have
Fallen
the crossover.
Order is now it was in Boba Fett, so we're
A lot of the
definitely seeing
stuff
that.
now is a good is a good setup to like. Oh, I like how like we were just talking about with Ahsoka or these other things when it pops up in a show. They're like, oh, we don't know that much about that, but I like that character. Well, we have this entire show where you can learn everything about her.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about how Disney Plus has highlighted or drawn a lot more people with their live action stuff to their animated shows because of the connected characters.
Yeah.
I've seen people, this has happened multiple times now, where like I've just met somebody and somehow Star Wars comes up. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
They're like, one of the first things they ask is, oh no, wait, have you seen Clone Wars and Rebels?
Because that's
And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen it. You've seen it? And they go, dude, it's so good. But like that would have never, like 2-3 years ago.
No.
Nobody would have
yeah.
ever mentioned
And what's
that
funny
to me.
is that's a quick way. And again, there
It's like,
are
how deep
there
are
are
you?
no greater Star Wars fans than others. If you want to watch Star
Yeah.
Wars and your Star Wars is just I want to watch the main 9 movies or whatever movies you
Yeah.
saw, great.
Or just
you want to watch
the
everything,
games or whatever.
just the games, just the novels, you pick and choose.
It's great.
Great. It is funny though. Not saying everyone has to watch all those to be a big diehard Star Wars fan. You definitely don't have to watch them all. But you do immediately figure out when someone says like, "Oh, I love Star Wars." And then you're like, "Cool. I know people that love Star Wars too. I do a podcast." So like how much am I supposed to nerd out here? So like the quick text, like the quick test.
I usually don't lead with the podcast.
The quick test of them saying, "Do you watch Star Wars Rebels or do you watch Rebels?" And you're like, "Oh, you're one of those fans."
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
so,
let's dive into
So,
this.
can we please talk about the great battle of the Mon Calamari versus the Aqualish and their fight? And you're like, You're like, okay, we can go full nerd out
I
on them
love
and
it.
talk about how I
it so
love
much.
the way that they expand on Dooku's character and all this versus
in
like, oh no, I
pajamas
mean, I
is-
just like what's his Luke. I like Luke. I'm like, okay, I love Luke too. But it's funny. It's funny when you get the different levels of like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Doesn't mean you're
There's no right, there's
greater
no
or
wrong,
worse
it's
fan,
just-
but
yeah.
it's funny how far
For
answering
sure.
that question of if they've seen Clone Wars Rebels immediately goes, oh, so you've invested this much time into Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
this is something that
You're really
influences your
trying to
life.
absorb everything. Yeah.
This is something that you, this is
Yeah,
something
that's
you,
great.
you really took a
Yeah.
deep dive into.
I love Star Wars. You Baby Yoda and that silver guy. No, you don't.
Silver guy.
Yeah.
I love
You've
the
never seen
silver
it?
guy.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
The silver
it's
guy.
funny though, because there's Mando's brought a lot of new fans. I've never
It
seen
has.
other
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff.
There's some friends of
heard
mine
of-
from church that are like, they are all in on Star Wars, watch all the films now and everything, and even have gone into Clone Wars and Rebels, and they were like, yeah, we were aware of Star Wars, maybe watched them a long time ago. Friends of ours, they're like, oh, Mando brought us in. Like, we watched Mando,
Everyone
didn't
was
know
talking
much
about
of
it.
anything about it.
Grogu's
like, kinda
all over the
started,
place.
and then they were like, well, now we need to learn about the Mandalorians, and then
Yeah.
they started doing all this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just such a cool.
So
It's
good.
cool when it brings in all these people
Yeah.
at different entry points.
Yeah.
Well, there's like we're talking. I don't know if Uncle's still watching. To be a long time to be watching. That makes it sound
Well,
like anybody
wait.
who's watching should be tuning out.
Should we be watching?
Keep
this
watching.
long?
But I was gonna say, if you asked, like he talked about in a couple of episodes ago when we did our Oscars episode, no one was slapped in our
Nope.
episode.
That could be
Does that
changed.
make us? Does that make us?
That
Can be
could be
changed.
changed.
Really tempting. Does that make us better than the Academy Awards? I mean, probably.
Probably.
Statistically,
Statistically.
No
Who
one
had
got
me-
banned
Who had more
from
viewers?
this room.
No, you got banned from this.
although Uncle's not here. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's true.
Kidding.
No, but I was gonna
Nobody
say
got slapped.
when Uncle was talking about we were going through like favorite actors or like best actor in this, and he was talking about how it was funny when he polled his kids, everything was from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And that just shows, and that's great. That's a
I love
completely
it.
valid,
Love it.
like valid perspective to have. It's so cool seeing different people to be like, oh, this is while Star Wars is for everyone, and we gravitate towards particular things. There are like a lot of us have like our sweet spot, or like this is my
Yeah.
thing of like I
And it-
love everything about Star
a lot
Wars.
of
or
it's what
so
were you
much.
introduced to first. A lot of it
Yeah.
comes down to that sometimes.
And so there's like people who are like, I grew up with the original trilogy, or I grew up with the
Yeah.
prequels. It was my entry point into Star Wars, and so I'm really fond of this. And like you said,
Right.
now we have a lot of people that are like, Rey is my Luke Skywalker. Like to some people,
Yeah.
like Luke is cool and all, but they're like, Rey is the first hero I ever saw in Star Wars, and this,
Yeah.
this, this. Like
especially
where like for me
younger,
it was
young
Luke, and then
girls
for other
that
people,
are
it's,
getting into Star Wars. How could you not like just? Like,
Yeah.
of course.
she's also
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I just think it's cool with all the different platforms and different things, whether it's different place to take in Star Wars now.
Yeah.
There's just the entry points can be all over the place, and it's great because of that too. There's so much out there that not every project has to be 100%. This has to appeal to every single audience. Like I liked Star Wars Resistance. Star Wars Resistance was an animated show
Yeah,
that was very
that was
different
good.
than Rebels or Clone Wars.
Very different, but it was
But it was
in a
also
great way. Yeah.
It was great, and it was clearly skewed a little bit towards a younger audience. But it was,
Yeah.
but it was also very impressive, and there were cool,
Animation's
cool
really good.
canon reveals and stuff in there. Poe's in it. Oscar Isaac actually
Yeah.
voices Poe in it,
Yeah.
which is cool. It also adds always validity when you get some of the people that are
Yeah, sure.
like, not to say that anyone in Clone Wars or Rebels aren't great. Like that adds validity when you get Ashley Eckstein just to even do an audiobook. You're like, oh, this book
That's
feels
like
important.
the main reason why I got the
Like
book.
it's cool, yeah. Like this feels
I was like, I
added
can hear
level of
Ahsoka read the
importance
book.
now.
Yeah, let's do it.
And people forget that George started Clone Wars, and George with
Right.
so like that right there adds validity to it. Of like, just imagine that the guy who created Star Wars, biggest franchise of all time, especially at the time before all the Marvel movies and everything, but Star Wars, he does his 6 movies and then he's like, I'm done. Wait, I want to do an animated show. Like it's just it's
Yeah.
such a big like imagine like Christopher Nolan say being like, you know what? Cartoons is what I want. Like I want to do animated. Like it's such a big thing
Cartoons.
that
No,
it's
it
just
is,
it's
though.
cool because immediately though, even though we ignored it for so long, or at least I did, like I didn't jump on until late in the game. it does add a validity to it of like, this is also not just like a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off of someone who grew up with Star Wars is doing a thing now. This was George himself in the room with Filoni doing these things together for Clone Wars. It's just cool. So sometimes the things we overlook are like, I wonder why it took me so long.
Yeah.
But then once you come around to it, you're like, it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, before we wrap it up, I want to mention one thing I was thinking about earlier that I forgot to say was,
How happy we are to have Joe on the podcast.
oh, did we not say that yet?
Because we're happy about it.
Can't you tell? We
Sorry.
all did the same thing. Just straight face. No, seriously, of course, it's always a blast having Joe on.
Yeah, continue though.
I
I
was gonna
derailed
say,
your thought.
We'll gloss over that though.
Talking about having like film be like kind of like seeing film as like the top tier.
Yeah.
I think another reason why I kind of feel that way, and we touched it a little bit earlier, was like the exclusivity of like it only comes every few years or whatever. Whenever we have a trilogy coming out, it's like you gotta wait. Whereas sometimes with these shows, it's like, oh, Mando's coming out. Okay, we get 8 weeks here or 10 weeks, so you get more time. And then when that stops, you're like, when's the next live action? Oh, Boba Fett comes out in 6 months. Okay, well we got.
It is weird now,
it
like-
kind of fixes like it gets. You don't have to wait. Whereas like
It's actually
me
weird
right
how
now-
impatient we are now. But like, if
I
I get
know.
like 2 months without Star Wars, I'm like, oh, when's the
what are
next
they
thing coming?
doing?
Guess I'll just go rewatch Rebels again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
we watch this great show, I guess.
I guess if I have to. No, but it's funny because just thinking about the idea, we talked about it last podcast of like Rian Johnson having a trilogy. Just thinking that right now, I think no matter what it is, instantly gets me more hyped than like any project already announced for Star Wars. Just because the thought of getting a new Star Wars trilogy is just like,
That's the big unknown right now.
I'm like, give it to me.
what's gonna happen with the Star
when
Wars
that gets
films?
announced, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think I have a hard time looking at that and being like, I don't know. I think I'll stick with the Disney Plus shows. I love the shows, but I mean, there's something about
That is by
getting
far
a trilogy like that.
the
is-
big unknown with Star Wars right now, as far as the direction
What's
of the future
next?
of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, is what's next for film.
Yeah.
Because they've done a great job and have things mapped out for shows. I mean, just of things
Yeah.
they're going to announce more things at Star Wars Celebration, almost guaranteed. That's what they usually do. But as of now, they already have either in production or announced. You got Mando season 3. You've got Andor, which has already been confirmed for 2 seasons now, because
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård was like,
He
"Yeah,
blew it.
I'm recording Dune 2 in the summer, and then that second season of Andor we're supposed to record in the fall." And people
Okay,
are like,
great.
"Well, that was a spoiler."
Oh, great. I guess he
Um,
lives.
yeah, exactly.
We already saw his
Yep.
outcome. We know it.
So multiple seasons of Andor. We've got Ahsoka. We've got obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out. We've got
Acolyte.
possible. Yeah, we got Acolyte. We got possible Lando. They announced Lando. We haven't had a ton
Droid
of updates
Tales.
on that. Those are just things that they've already
Yeah.
announced.
Rogue Squadron.
And Rogue Squadron, which has been a little
Hit or
iffy
miss. Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, is it coming? Is it not coming? Like we're.
I think the
But then
biggest
nothing else other
question
than
is
Taika Waititi's name being attached to a Star Wars film in the future.
Right.
But we have nothing else.
Feige
really
being
other than-
attached to a Star Wars
But we don't have
project.
any idea as to what or when. And it's been almost 2 years since the announcement
Yeah.
from Kathy Kennedy of here's our next Star Wars shows, all this stuff, and then here's our movies. I mean the
big
Rogue
question's
Squadron
the
was supposed to come out
trilogy.
is supposed to come out next year.
I think that's the biggest
2023.
question is what is the next when and what will be covered in the next trilogy. And it's crazy that like these mediums now are so big, like Star Wars and Marvel are so big that
Yeah.
we're just banking on the fact, no, there'll be another trilogy. For sure, just a matter of
A
time.
trilogy's so
like,
big.
Like, it's
Yeah,
just
Of course they'll do more
Oh, why
trilogies.
not?
we
I mean,
say it
a
like
couple
it's
of trilogies.
nothing.
Just 3
Yeah.
movies.
It's like if
Just
Indiana
3
Jones
movies that'll
just comes,
span-
oh, yeah,
yeah.
of course there's going to be another trilogy.
Right.
I
Of course,
mean,
be another
course.
trilogy. It spans almost an entire decade.
It's like,
If 3
we
years
say
apart.
it like it's nothing, which is crazy because these things are so big. But it's
Yeah.
like, of course, Marvel's gonna have another trilogy of something. It's like it's just crazy, but I think they will. that
Side-
said, I think they will.
Side
So what
side
will it
note,
be?
because I've had a very busy couple of weeks as Abby and I are, my wife and I are moving into our new house. Finally got caught up on Moon Knight. Ooh, it
Yeah.
is good.
It's different. I
Why
like
did you
it though.
call me Mark?
Why'd you call me Ma?
That was much better than mine. I don't like that. Let's edit that out. No.
Is this live?
Don't upstage me.
I'm the impression.
We went over this. That's my one thing.
What? A shape proposal. No, I mean, I don't know. I think these different mediums. I love it. I actually like that it's not all movies or all shows.
Yeah.
I enjoy taking in the different. Like I said, Visions had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Great.
Loved it. Anime, Star Wars, loved it.
Yeah.
Thought it was great. So I love that we're getting different mediums of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's
Give me the
fantastic.
spread. Just
Is
I want
films your
a
favorite?
charcuterie board of Star Wars media.
Let's give we'll put Joe on the spot here.
Let's put him on the
before we
spot.
close.
Who,
Give me
on the
one
spot?
prediction. We did an episode a while
He knows both.
last back or a
Mando
couple-
maybes.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda. One prediction of
Obi-Wan
something you think you
happens.
would, or something you would like to see announced at Star Wars Celebration. Whether
Ooh.
it doesn't have to be specific, but
I
it
think
could
we
be
wrap
like,
it up with this. Joe, hot seat, go.
Hot seat.
but it could be like I want a Old Republic movie or a High Republic show or something in those lines, or it could be character specific or
Or a game, or
could be prediction or just
show
something you
or-
want. Basically, just give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
you get it.
Give me Star Wars Battle Royale.
For a
Ooh.
second, okay, that was
Just-
great. For a second, I really thought you were just ending with, "All right, give me Star Wars." Just like-
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly,
just-
just give me Star
Just
Wars.
one
Give me
requirement is
Star
just
Wars.
that Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, I think
Star Wars Battle
I think
Royale.
Star Wars would probably be on the
Dude,
docket.
that'd be crazy.
At Star Wars Celebration.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Star Wars Battle Royale.
Yeah, or just some sort of Star Wars game. Oh, okay.
I have
Let's
no
go.
idea
Hey, can we turn it up?
what's
Alright.
happening.
Can you at least put it into the mic so they
Yeah.
can hear it?
I don't even know how that happened. I don't know. My
You know
phone
who's
just started
crazy?
playing
This guy's
music.
crazy. That's who's
He's
crazy.
crazy.
No one's gonna get that
Sticky
joke.
like
Star Wars game, maybe Battle Royale, something like that would be fun. And I would really love to see, and I think they. My bet
Oh,
is
he's
that
making a
they
bet.
would do something High Republic.
High
Feels like
Republic.
they're going pretty heavy.
Yeah,
like,
they're just
all
going
into
so
the-
hard with
yeah.
that, with the books and everything. It's
You
like,
feel like
how
it's
do you
eventually
not
going to
make-
expand into
How do you
something
not
else.
make something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
already
could see
like
it.
so good.
Yeah, they're doing, and they're taking their time laying the groundwork. Where
Yep.
They also took their time approaching this as like, here's our new era of Star Wars we're trying to head into,
Yeah.
as far as the new time period. So it does feel like eventually it's going to expand beyond just the novels and the comic books.
It is.
Yeah.
I could see it.
inevitable.
It is your destiny.
All right.
I love it.
So I'll go High Republic.
You
High
shall
Republic.
be known as Darth Joe the Wise.
No, I don't. High Republic,
High
love it.
Republic's so good.
High
It's so
Republic's
good.
great.
Yeah.
It really
Any-
is. They're
any
just
more
doing such a good
content
job.
with High Republic.
It's also a time period that you're like, we've heard some Old Republic stuff,
Yeah.
and they can still do a bunch of that. But we've heard some of that High Republic stuff we really haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Love the
it's
unknown.
close
it's wide
enough
open.
to some stuff that we can see some
Yeah, you
parallels.
see some
We get
ties,
Yoda,
Yeah.
but it's
You don't
far
have
enough
to be.
away that
Yeah.
there's no expectations.
It's not like, well, we know exactly what this character was doing at this time period. So that doesn't make sense that they
Right.
would run into some. It's
Right.
pretty
See,
open.
Give me the what's his name? Tar, something like that. Like who made the dark saber?
Oh,
The Jedi
Tar
Mando?
Vizsla.
Tar
Tar
Vizsla.
Vizsla, yeah.
We've
Yes.
mentioned that before.
Give me his story.
Give
I
me a
don't
little
Tar
Tar
Vizsla.
care
Vizsla. Mandalorian,
what that is. Give me his story.
Mandalorian Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some Tar Vizsla would be nice.
We might get some history there in Mando, maybe.
That would be great.
I like it.
That'd
I
be
like it.
awesome.
Man. In what? A show? A movie?
Anything.
Yeah,
Show
any-
probably.
anything.
I'm like show.
they do, man.
You
I'm
know.
not getting greedy.
Not getting
Anything.
greedy. Anything.
Anything.
Show. I mean,
I'm not getting greedy.
this-
That being said, give it to me
Give
right
it to
now.
me. Yeah, I'm not.
Give me it.
No.
Everything.
Greatest character development, you know, I would say. in the
Yeah.
show,
Oh,
so-
yeah.
I like it.
Go show.
I like
That's
it.
great. Nate, where can the people find us?
Hey, you can find us
Hi.
here if you're watching on YouTube currently. Thanks for hopping in. Thanks for engaging in the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like the video if you like Star Wars. Like the video. Help us out. Spread the news of Star Wars guys on YouTube. We appreciate you all tuning in. If you want to reach out to us personally, you can message our official Star Wars guys account on Instagram, and that is at Star Wars Guys Pod on Instagram. You can message us. We like to encourage our viewers to send us topic ideas, whether it's diving into a character, questions you have, whatever it is, you want us to do a deep dive on something.
Yeah.
We've been trying to post more content like trailer reactions and things with all these shows, Kenobi coming out and all that. Getting guests on here like Joe, so everybody make sure to thank Joe in the chat and the comments if you're watching this back for coming on. But yeah.
Thank you, Joe. I'll say it in person.
I'll say it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Joseph?
Thank you.
That sounds weird. Never called you Joseph.
Joby-Wan Kenobi?
Joby-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh.
Wait, what
Joda.
are, you've got a couple of
Joda.
What are some of his
Joby-Wan Kenobi is, I think that's new, and it's
Joby-Wan
kind
Kenobi.
of fire.
That's pretty
Joby-Wan
good. I just thought of
Kenobi's-
that. Joby-Wan
That's
Kenobi
pretty
is
good.
pretty good.
I still like Lanjo Calrissian.
Lanjo Calrissian.
Joe.
Joda.
Joda. Joda's a classic.
Joda. Baby
You got
Joda.
a lot of good ones.
Baby Joda.
Baby Joda.
Maybe not.
There's some.
D-Joe?
I feel
D-Joe
like
one?
Joe's one that works a lot.
Joe.
D-Joe instead of
Oh
Dio.
my gosh. I love it.
D-Joe.
Yeah, when your name is just basically generic vowel sound, you can kind of insert it
Hey,
anywhere you
it's
want.
good.
I almost said instead of Jen Urso, just Joe Urso.
Joe Urso.
Joe.
Joe
Jen's
Joe.
brother
Joe.
Joe.
He's just
Hey, what's up?
Joe.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Jen's in the back. Just gaming.
That's
I love it.
fantastic. No, that's great. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Like a bantha.
Like a banta.
I haven't done that one.